Hi, everyone. So glad we're all here together. We made it through yesterday. We made it. Hi, Francis. Isn't this wonderful?
Hi, David. Yeah.
We're so touched. We're just going to dive right in deep to all kinds of stuff today because we've been reading through your questions and we've been listening to the Bhavna. You had a beautiful interview there with Jason, and I think Bhavna brought up some nice, good non-dual things and Dreamer of the Dream things, and Sven, another one, wrote into us with his non-dual experiences of having a revelation after a Gangaji retreat back in 2013, and then I think Darren, I saw Darren, you were saying like you were on a high last from the last retreat. You had to show up for this one. You were on such a Jesus high. You said, that's the kind of high we like. That's not drug induced. That's spirit induced. Jesus high. That's not even ayahuasca induced. That's just a pure Jesus high. You can't get any better than that. And then also I saw Andrea, you were writing, like you were saying, hey, I'm really hanging in here. Can you give me the nuts and bolts of the forgiveness process? Like I'm really sincere about this. Like let's really get at this forgiveness stuff. Let's go right at it. So Francis and I were talking this morning, and Francis was bringing up so many beautiful things, and we were talking a little bit about the movie because there were so many intense reactions to the movie and the violence of the movie, and some people saying, wow, I was in such a state I didn't even notice it was violent. One person said, I missed that part. Whoa, you're in a state of mind if you watch one of our heavy duty mind watching movies and you didn't notice the violence. Okay, now we're getting into some joy. Now we're getting into some bliss. You're up on above the battleground when you have that experience. But Francis, maybe you can share. We were noticing some things. I've seen this movie a lot of times, and I was noticing some things. And Francis and I were just talking today in such glee and joy of what we noticed that was teaching the kingdom of heaven, that was teaching the attitude, the beatitudes that Jesus always talked about. So people can say, where did you see the beatitudes being taught in that movie? Aren't you fascinated to hear what we're going to say today? Where were the beatitudes in that movie? Francis?
Okay. Yeah, it's so joyful when David and I compare notes about what we saw yesterday, and it was similar experience, but I haven't seen that movie for a long time, and yesterday I was watching it and just noticed how much with watching the screen like a movie, but also like, the mind is watching, seemingly perceiving what's happening in the world. It is so much wanted to find an anchor point on the screen, and what is the right, who is the right one, who is the wrong one, and always wanting to find the innocent one on the screen to kind of like, this is the good one, this is the bad one, this is the good one, this. And when that become very, very how do I put it? When that is not clear cut, it feels disorientating because there is nothing that you can hang on to on the external world. And then I remembered that in the last few days, actually since the new year, for days, this sentence Jesus put in the course was ringing very strong in my mind, saying that innocent is not a partial attribute. So until it is a viewpoint, until it is a viewpoint with universal application, then it becomes true. So in another sense, there is no innocent one on the screen. Innocence is not a partial attribute. It's not something we can point on. This is good, this is bad, this is innocent, this is guilty. It actually brings it all back. It's a viewpoint, it's an attitude. And that's why it is so much all or nothing. We either see innocence or we do not. We either see truly or we do not. Innocence is a viewpoint, is an attribute that never perceive wrongly, ever. It does not perceive wrongly. It never misperceives. So when a movie was like that, was, oh my God, there is intense chasing, there is intense blaming and attack and sides, which side is true, which side is good, which side is bad. It's very much like, you know, how the ego want to perceive and want to put the value outside to the world. Find the innocent one outside, find the ones outside, find the answer outside. And yet, that was such an amazing exercise to see during a retreat about vision, to see what is actually vision or innocence is a viewpoint. Like how do we perceive is all that matters. And then this morning when David and I talk about the movie, David actually said there is a symbol in the movie that shows this pure innocent viewpoint.
Yeah.
So maybe David,
I'll share a little bit about that, because it dawned on me. I've seen this movie so many times, and Jesus was like, there it is. Do you see it? Do you see it? Do you see it? I put it in there. Do you see it? It's there. And what it was Rachel's son, Sam. Happy, beautiful, freckled-faced Sam. And I'm like, Sam? So Sam was the symbol that I was supposed to see in the movie. Out of that whole movie, the little freckle-faced little boy was the symbol. And Jesus said, yeah, right there. He said, you know, Sam was always happy, even in the first scene when his mother is frantically looking for the keys. Who is sitting there calmly, waiting for his mom to get the keys? It's Sam. Then they go to the bus station. You know, he's got his trumpet and he's getting ready to go to camp. And the band director's there. They get there and they look up, and who is it? But it's Sam's father, and it's her ex. And what is Sam's reaction to seeing his father? Glee. He goes, Dad, Dad. And he goes running and he puts his arms around him. He loves him so dearly. And she's got this look on her face like, oh no, late again. And then I noticed a few seconds later, the father actually says to her, as Sam is just getting ready to board the bus, the father says to her, I'm so sorry. I have to apologize. I was stuck in traffic. He's apologizing to her. And her response is, don't even say it. She is so close to this man that she says, don't even say it, as he's offering an apology. And then the best part was, Sam gleefully goes onto the bus. And as soon as he hops in the bus door, the man inside says, do you think your mother's going to be okay? And what did Sam say? It's unclear. And then the next point we see of Sam is during the frantic movie is the voice message he leaves for her. You know, Mom, it's so great. I'm having such a great time. I'm happy at camp. Love you, love you. That's the voicemail. Sam is in the happy dream. He's having the best time of his life. And his mother, he said, it's unclear if she's going to be, is she going to be okay? It's unclear. Yeah, well, that's why all of us, whenever we see something that is hard to handle in the world, it's because we're unclear. We need the vision of Christ. That's why we're all here. We're here to open to the vision of a new world. And to me, that was so cool to have such a little symbol representation. And then guess how the movie ends? It ends with, what is it? Sam's birthday party. If it wasn't enough to see a happy child at his home, if it wasn't enough to see a happy child at the bus station, if it wasn't enough to see a happy voicemail come through, the movie ends with his birthday party. Knock on the door. Who is it? Door opens. Sam goes, Jerry, Jerry, just like he said to his dad, Dad, Dad. You know, he's so happy to see Jerry and have Jerry there at his birthday party. And then his mother, Rachel, says, as she gives a soft, loving kiss on Jerry's cheek, she also said to Jerry, you remembered. And really, that was her remembering the love. She remembered. You know, whenever we blame anyone else, it's because we have failed to forgive ourselves for the same mistake. You know, why do we judge people when the mistake is in our mind? You know, we're looking through a darkened glass. We're the one who have believed in the ego, and then we put it out onto these characters as if they did us wrong. They mistreated us. They weren't loving. They weren't consistent. They didn't do the right things. And so to me, that movie suddenly took on even more in terms of our retreat here of we're opening to the vision of Christ. So Francis and I thought today we would actually start talking about that, what that means in practical terms, in the Beatitudes, in the way we carry ourselves, in our attitude and state of mind, because I feel like Jesus is teaching us that one thing, that if you want to know God, you have to feel the love of God in your heart and give it away in order to know it for yourself. Teach only love, for that is what you are. And I'll just give one more example. I mean, I've been with the Course for 35 years, and some years ago, I think it was, some years ago, I was traveling all over the world and teaching the Course, and suddenly a funny kind of thing happened on planet Earth that involved the Course in Miracles. Some of you may know, some of you may never not know, but I was traveling and teaching the Course, and suddenly somebody said, do you know that there's a lawsuit going on around the Course in Miracles? And I said, a lawsuit? And they said, yeah, there's a court case that is going on about who owns the words of Jesus. And I thought, well, that's pretty silly. But as I continued on traveling and teaching, then I kept hearing more and more. They said, no, there's a second lawsuit. And then I keep travel teaching. There's a third lawsuit. There was fourth lawsuit, fifth, sixth. There was actually 7 consecutive lawsuits. Legal lawsuits going on at the same time around the ownership of the words of A Course in Miracles. Who owns the copyright? You imagine that 7 legal lawsuits going on about who owns the words of Jesus. I think even the Christians would have a laugh at that. They would go, oh, that is bizarre. Yeah. So anyway, after I was traveling and these lawsuits were going on, inevitably I finished one of my gatherings and somebody came up to me and they said, which side is right? And I said, what do you mean, which side is right? They said, these lawsuits are going on and there's different competing sides. Who is the correct side? Which side is right? And I just said, which book are you reading? This is a book of non-judgment. This is a book of not taking sides. This is a book of seeing the innocence in everything and everyone because of the perspective of Jesus. Jesus would certainly not have anything to do with duality when he's teaching us oneness and unity, when he's teaching us to love God with all your heart and soul and might, when he's teaching us to love your neighbor as yourself. This question of whose side is right is not, it's not a real question. It's like, what book are you reading if you believe in sides? And that's why Jesus was so defenseless. He really wasn't against anything in the world. He was for God. He was for love, and he did not condemn the Romans. Even the Zealots party back 2,000 years ago, their whole purpose was to get Rome out of Galilee, out of what we would today call Israel. That was their whole purpose, to politically, fight and eject the Romans from the land. And Jesus was not even, he wasn't pro-Jew or pro-Roman. He didn't even take a side with the Romans and the Jews. So this is showing us how powerful vision is, how innocence is not a partial characteristic, like Francis said. And this kind of vision is what heals, because this is showing the way God is. God loves everything and everyone because of the oneness of God, because of what God is. So what a way to kick off our final session on vision, for remembering the love of Jesus and the love of God that can't even take a side. Imagine that. No taking of sides. Wow.
And if you try to take a side yesterday's movie, you would experience how impossible that was, and that's where all the chaos come from. Like, there is the split is projected. Okay, there is a good side, there's a bad side, and deciding which one to line up as if there is any meaning in it. And yet Sam, as the innocent kid, he didn't really take any side. He didn't really think who is the government the one to root for, or is the anti-government. In his world, you can see actually in his experience in his world, everything is quite miraculous. He was the one who was going to hit the note. And before he could do it, without even his awareness or his control, something would come in, like a divine intervention would come in to, just everything works together for good. But in the innocent child's perspective, everything is so perfect. There is no bad guy, there is no good guy, there is no side. He's just happy. He's just very loving. And that is our way to learn how to perceive the world. We need to be taught, because when the world events are projected in our awareness, this is the ego's way of trying to put meaning, trying to sort out the reason and the purpose of the world. Take aside what is good, what is bad, and keep asking yourself to make decisions based on who you are, who the ego tells you who you are. Then make a decision about who you are, then decide what the world is. But that's really, we have to unlearn all of it with this guided help from the Spirit.
Yeah, I think, Jesus was teaching us to be humble. He's just teaching us to be extremely humble. And I think back to the Bible, where someone comes to Jesus and they start calling Jesus good, and Jesus's response when they tell him that he's good is, he says, "Why do you call me good? God is good." He points towards God when he's given what the world would say a compliment. The ego likes compliments, and the ego doesn't like criticisms. It likes personal compliments. And the thing was, Jesus he was aware that he was the Christ, but that's not a man or a woman. There's not a male Christ or a female Christ. There's not a masculine Christ or a feminine Christ. There's just Christ. And we, even in the movie, for Christ's sake, you hear it all in the movies, for Christ's sake. Yeah, for Christ's sake, there's just one of us. There's just spirit, and it's not male or female. It's not black or white. It's not masculine or feminine. And that's where the vision of Christ transcends the dualities of the world. One time, I used to love reading about the ancient Greeks, because the ancient Greeks were teaching and sharing this wisdom even hundreds of years before Jesus, thousands probably. It goes way back. But I remember a story about Socrates one time where a man came to Socrates, who was this wise Greek man that everybody looked up to Socrates. He was a great example of living the presence of love. And a man walked up to Socrates, and the man started telling Socrates that the man was telling Socrates, I'm enlightened. The man was just telling Socrates, I'm enlightened. I'm an enlightened one. And Socrates just looked him in the eye and he said, do you mean to tell me that in every circumstance and every encounter and every moment of your life, that you know absolutely what is good for you and good for everyone on the planet? That was the question Socrates asked. And the man just bowed his head and walked away. That was the last of the Enlightenment talk, because Socrates was so humble. He knew the depth of what the question was really asking, and so he simply turned it back, and the man walked away very humble. So I think that's what when we approach vision, we're praying for true humbleness. We're praying to lay aside the personality self, to lay aside pride and vanity, to lay aside the I know mind that thinks it knows something good or bad, positive or negative. And I think that movie, as Francis is saying, was such a good device for that, because if you tried to follow the plot, which we are trained to try to follow the plot, we're trained through our books, our fairy tales, to follow the plot and figure out who's the evil one and who's the good one. Like in The Wizard of Oz, who is the evil witch and who is the good witch? We want to know who the good one is and the bad one, so we can get angry at the evil one and we can fall in love with the good one. And Jesus says, let's call the whole thing off. You say tomato, I say tomato, you say potato, I say potato, tomato, tomato, potato, potato. Let's call the whole thing off. And are we ready to go with Jesus and forgive the world and call this dramatic projection? Are we ready to call it off? Ollie, Ollie, and come free, come home, come home. You see, the Spirit is calling us home. God is saying, we're in heaven and your creations are waiting here with me and they're pure spirit, but you can't remember your creations until you forgive the world. You have to forgive your projections before you can remember that you're a creative spirit. And we're all waiting, we're like hum-de-dum-de-dum, which is just a symbol. God isn't really waiting, but because love doesn't really wait on anything, but it's a symbol to us to really forgive. Like, we really do need to take this sincerely. We can't hold on to grievances and expect to know who we are. We can't hold on to judgments. And I love a movie that really pushes us to that point. It says, give it up. This judgment, this strain of judgment is very hard to continue with. Francis, I think I also, when I was reading Bhavna's questions about duality and how do I most directly come into the dreamer of the dream experience, how can I go most directly to the dreamer of dream? And then when I was reading Sven Stein's from the Netherlands, I was reading about his revelation, and he was really from his heart calling for this experience of vision. You and I decided, like today, I think that's what we need to focus on, is the means, because we're aware of a lot of great non-dual paths, Advaita Vedanta, there's ancient Chinese non-dual teachings, India, there's different various schools of non-dual thought, but traditionally, spirituality has focused on meditation as a way to reach God. And I think Bhavna brought up the idea of renunciation. Most traditional spiritual pathways talk about renunciation, renounce the world. That's the goal for being a nun. That's the goal for being a monk. Why would you take vows of poverty, chastity, obedience, and live with a bunch of other people off, usually in a secluded place, not interacting with the world anymore, unless you were going for renunciation? But today, Francis and I are going to tell you there's something beyond renunciation, that it's important. Letting go of the pursuits of the world is certainly very important, and removing the obstacles to the awareness of love's presence. But we're going to talk about joy today, and we're going to talk about the means of experiencing consistent joy and happiness, which I think is really what all the questions are asking about. And Francis we've joined together many years ago, and we've been living this experience together and in community for many years. And I think a lot of you are starting to say, can you tell us more about that? Can you tell us more about your path and the means that you took to go into this experience of consistent peace and joy?
Yeah. And I like to be able to hand it something that that I can hold on to and move towards, because if the whole teaching is focus on what is not there, or renounce what is not there, nadi, which is ultimately very, very true. But the thing is, what is the practice for me becomes push everything away. And like even Bhavna talked about it on Friday night, I heard she say that actually even relationships, it's not really that hard to push all relationships away, to be on my own and practice this. But what I found is that ever since I got into the pathway of A Course in Miracles, I was handed the steps and the people and the relationships for me to actually go towards. So basically, this is a pathway where, as we talked about earlier when we opened the whole retreat, this is a pathway that's been carefully orchestrated by the Spirit. And this is a curriculum where the Spirit is gonna provide things for me to focus on, to go toward. And I actually even remember I only had one spiritual retreat before A Course in Miracles, which was Vipassana meditation. And I was into the pathway that was very quiet and observing my mind. And then after that, I read the teachers of Vipassana meditation would come together to compare notes every once in a while. Maybe after a few decades, the teachers would realize that they hit a wall of anger that they couldn't move through meditation, or not very fast at least. And that anger or frustration were normally brought up in their relationships. So that gave me a hint, like that's why Jesus talked about your path is different. A holy relationship is given you as a means to save time. So there are many, many other pathways, but this one, not even by my own choosing, was given to me through divine orchestration. That landed on my lap. And I actually have no doubt that is the same case for everybody, because just to be able to read Jesus's words right now is nothing less than a miracle to me, and we are all reading it. We're all recognizing it. We're all touched by it. So they dropped onto our laps. And then Jesus says, this is your path, very direct, very, blunt, unequivocal. This is your path. Your path is giving you, a holy relationship is giving you as a way to save time. And I watch from the very beginning when I pick up the course, I started to interact with people that came my way, brought in by the course, brought in as Medi companions. And then after I joined the community, it kind of like step up another notch, because then collaborative projects were given. Collaborative projects were given as a means to become closer with your brother, not closer as bodily coming closer, but mind coming closer through forgiveness, through looking at the obstacles that standing in the way. Look at them as guided by the Spirit. Look at everything that is not the truth as guided by the Spirit, daily, day in and day out. But it's actually extremely fast in terms of joining with your brother, because actually, you know, Jesus says in the course, as long as you're still looking for the past to resolve your guilt, you're not looking within. As long as there is any person that you still project your guilt onto, you haven't found the answer within. As long as there is one person you still project your guilt onto, you're still attracted to guilt. You're still holding on to the guilt. So when I read that, I realize the depth of this undoing. Not to beat myself up saying, oh, it's not about that, but it's just to be humble, to realize the depth of this undoing. It is a course to eliminate guilt, to eliminate fear completely, but we have to give our path to be under the Spirit's control, to reach that degree of an undoing. And I have to say, yes, you know, Bhavna asked the question, is this an instant realization, I'm the dreamer of the dream, or is it gradual? And I just have to say, in my own case, it feels it's very much a step-by-step, highly orchestrated, highly planned, highly cared for curriculum. Step by step, every step is given to me. And all that is asked for me is not to know the plan, not necessarily to know what I should be doing, but just to be willing to face what is right in front and to be able to, in this moment, choose something different, choose a forgiveness attitude. That's all that is asked. It comes down to very simple.
Yeah. And it's beautiful because we know that many of you have searched and searched and searched and searched. Francis and I did too. We searched and searched and searched. And when you search through time and through history, you're kind of looking for things, what's going to work. That's Bhavna, I think that's what you're saying, is what's it going to take to have an experience that I'm the dreamer of the dream. So we're going to address that very directly today. I want to bring in a few other ones to join in to help us get clear on this. I want to start off with Buddha. You know, Buddha came, and Buddha basically renounced his life in the palace. He was supposed to be the king. He renounced his life in the palace. He left the palace and he went to face whatever he needed to face. Yay, Siddhartha, go for it. Face all the darkness, face all the distractions in the mind, and go for what they would call the Buddha head, the Buddha state of mind. He's leaving Siddhartha behind. He's leaving the personality behind. And basically the big teaching of Buddha was the middle way. If you pull the string too tight on a musical instrument, it will snap. And if the string is too loose, it will not play. So you have to find the middle way. Now I'm going to talk more about the miracle. Jesus, his version of the middle way is the miracle. That's why it's called A Course in Miracles. He's smack dab into that middle way, and he's going to show us the full extent of what the miracle is, that if you follow Jesus, you'll go all the way to the atonement and right into the love of God, because Jesus was the first one to wake up from the dream. And so because he was the first, he's a good way shower, I'll tell you. He's not second class in any way. He's the primo way shower, because to wake up from the dream is the whole point. So when we go through history, we look at like Ramana Maharshi is very famous for meditation and silence. We have like Meister Eckhart. We have famous philosophers, Immanuel Kant and all the great Greek philosophers and a whole string of philosophers. So we could say silence is a pathway to God in terms of meditation. Contemplation is a pathway to God, as Master Eckhart and all the ones, the great contemplators of throughout history. We have people like Mother Teresa, and she said, no, it's service. It's service to God. You reach God through service. And what we start to realize is there's others that said, no, you have to fight against temptations and you have to fight it out with the ego. And then Jesus has a place in the Course called I Need Do Nothing, where he says that those who have tried these ways will achieve the goal because of the purpose underneath. But he does say that these other ways are tedious and time-consuming. Oh my God, what did you just say? You were saying that the traditional means for reaching God, what did you call them? Tedious and time-consuming. Jesus says your way will be different. A holy relationship is given you. That's his way. Now, that's what Francis was describing. When we talk about holy relationship, we're not talking about the body, but we are talking about purposeful communication. We are talking about collaboration. We're talking about letting the Spirit use everything in form. That's why we have all these collaborative projects. That's why we're on Zoom with you right now, because we have collaborative projects. And this is one of our collaborative projects. You're all included. We're kind of in a quantum moment all together. Some of you are at the monastery. Some of you are in your houses and apartments. Some of you are at La Casa de Milagros, QDS, and different places. I'm in the United States, Francis is in Mexico, but we're all here in the mind, inspired by Jesus, because he told us your way would be different. A holy relationship is given you as a means of saving time. That's not really traditional. In most traditional religions and spiritualities, it's kind of like, it's more of renunciation, and why don't you just burrow and find your own place, little corner of the universe to go in where the world doesn't bother you and you can just pray all day or meditate all day. And Jesus is saying, if you'll let me use relationships, I will help you remove the obstacles to the awareness of love's presence in your mind in the fastest way possible. I will help you save time for you and for everyone if you're willing to do that. So that's why we have all these gatherings online with Zoom and movies. That's why we have our communities. It's not to try to do anything special in the world. We're not trying to make our own version of Medjugorje or something in Mexico or Utah. Mexico and Utah don't mean anything to us, but joy, that means something. Happiness, that means something. Peace of mind, that means something. We're excited about that, and we're saying we'd like to tell you a little bit more of how we've been drawn to that, because, you know, I think through the renunciation path, if someone was bothering you, you might just retreat and go back to the cave and say, okay, pray. I want to release this grievance of this person that's bothering me. And even the middle way and even silence is a beautiful pathway, but it's like, how can you experience consistent silence if you still have grievances in your mind? And what Jesus is saying, if you look at the grievances, you're going to usually have people in your mind, thoughts about people, feelings about people. And that's what the Vedanta meditators were trying to face. They were trying to face this huge darkness that when they came together in Thailand, they started to say, oh my God, did you hit that same wall of fear that I hit? After like decades of doing meditations, going deeper and deeper, it's there, but it's only there because it's believed in. And the last thing I want to share too is Jesus says to learn this course requires willingness to question every value that you hold. Not one can be kept hidden or it will obscure your learning. In other words, this is a pathway very much like self-inquiry, very much like Ramana Maharshi's, who am I? And that's the central question of self-inquiry. And what Jesus is saying is, I can help you go faster through the self-inquiry if you allow me to use relationships, because the tendency is to project the guilt and the hurt and the pain onto these relationship figures. You do it more so with the figures than you do with like trees and puppy dogs. You really get angry and raging at people. Even though they're just images, you really go after them the most. And that's why he says, you let me give the relationships to you, and then I'll show you through the relationships what you still believe, what you're still holding on to, what you're still hiding. And beyond that, I'll take you into collaborative, holy relationship where everything you think and say and do is for the good of the whole. When you have a Zoom meeting like this, it's for the whole universe. When you collaborate on a book or translating a book into other languages, it's for the whole universe. When you do a tour, it's for the whole universe. Everything you do, everything you think and say and do is actually for the whole universe. It's not for you personally, but we can't know that experientially until we follow it. Frances can tell you that at times when she felt a grievance arising toward a person in the community or whatever, you can tell them what the guidance was from Jesus. And it wasn't run away from this person. It was actually go toward this person that you are judging. And that is a very different teaching than most teachings in the world.
Yeah, it's very much like the example you gave on the opening session about Bill Thetford. The fact that he was willing to sit in front of his co-chair for 30 days, it was because of this underlying purpose that I want to join with you, even if I don't know the way and form. But that is my desire. No matter whether you like me, you agree with me, you want to fire Helen, I don't want to fire Helen. There's like a disagreement on the surface, but underneath is that I want to join with you deeper in forgiveness. And that is really what Jesus is guiding. So basically, this pathway is very different from avoiding and dissociating. Jesus is saying there is something you go toward, which is the guidance and the miracle and the relationship, but it's all under Jesus's guidance. So then the pathway become very, very obvious. It's not something we need to mentally try to figure out or draw a map ourselves. If anything, we say, okay, then make it obvious, and I like to go toward the miracle. I like to go toward the intimacy in the mind. I like to go toward guidance that comes, either through myself, through my brothers, or something that's obvious. So that's exactly what happens. If unforgiveness is noticed in the mind, the goal is forgiveness. And Jesus always actually arranged how that would happen. In the community, we very much focus on expressing, which is not so much about pointing fingers. It's actually the total opposite of it. But it's more about holding the space to allow something you think is so guilty that you even have these thoughts. And that's why you protect it yourself. And that's why it becomes reality to you. So the community said, like, let's have time so you can go toward your brother where he can hold the space for you, to allow it to be not judged and then to be seen. And in the non-judgment, actually, once you see that and not being judged, you're willing to let it go. That letting go really doesn't take as much as you see this is really not something you want. So, so I would say that even the whole pathway about forgiveness, how to express, who to express with, how to release these judgmental thoughts, are actually given in the moment on a case-by-case basis. There is no cookie cutter approach to say I'm always having to go directly to the person and lay out my attack thoughts. No, but the purpose underneath it is so important. My goal is wanting to reach a state of forgiveness and wanting to really join with my brother, and whatever that is given. And I feel like that's also coming back to what Bhavna was asking yesterday after the movie about expressing with the family. It is very, and David actually wrote in that question, if I have a grievance, does that mean I need to talk to the person about? And I feel like, if we know the goal is for me to see differently, not for them to get it, to get what I see about them so that they can understand. It's never about that. And so we want help to release this, and we want help. So we want to have Jesus provide help. Can my family give me help? Can my family hold space for me and not judge me for what I say? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, I don't know. So I need to be very, very clear. This is me asking for help to release these thoughts. And I want someone who can hold me in that and hold the space for me in that. And I do feel like the community and even the online community is very much with that purpose up front. So this is enable us to be able to go toward our brothers in this way, which is very, very effective.
Yeah. It's beautiful too when you think of it. Like, we're going for a very deep state of mind, that's been covered over by the whole world, and Jesus is saying, "Oh, I'm here. I'm with you. You can experience this because I'm in it, and you're going to be in it with me." Kind of like in the movie, little Sam was in it. He was in happiness. Mom had to go through a few lessons. He said, "Is your mother going to be okay?" The man told on the bus, and he said, "It's unclear." At this point, like, she's got a few things. She was, brush your teeth, do this and do this. Call me. And he's like, "Oh, Mom, I miss you too." That was his response to all the things that he was supposed to be doing. "Oh, Mom, I miss you too." You see, he knew it was about the love underneath. And I think if we look at Jesus, imagine that it's a world of darkness where nobody knows anything. And then suddenly this beautiful being of light, Jesus, comes, and he is the first one to wake up from the dream. You can imagine how that must have been in the dream if a being comes and realizes that the world's not real and that there is a God, but God is pure love. And so when Jesus came to earth, he overthrew all of history, even Judaism. He would say things like, "I'm not here to bring the letter of the law. I'm here to bring the spirit of the law," because the Torah was very deep, and there was many deep Jewish traditions. It was amazing culture that he came into when he seemed to show up, but he broke the mold. He broke the mold. He was like the living light that this world was made to deny. Now, for us, how does that translate to daily living? Well, years later, we do follow, we listen and follow, we do collaborations, we are learning the lesson from the workbook. I trust my brother who is one with me. We are practicing every day with our community members and with everyone we meet in the whole world. I trust my brother who is one with me. We're learning inner guidance, inner trust. But we also have a willingness to follow whatever that is, because we know that that's the fast track. So, for example, like when Jesus came, there was people that were drawn to him, like moths drawn to the flame. There was the apostles, there was the women's corps, Mary Magdalene. People were drawn to Jesus because he was lit up. He was calm, he was friendly, he was happy. That's right, he was happy in a time when they were hanging people upside down and crucifying people upside down on crosses and letting them bleed to death. Jesus was happy. How was he happy in that time of history when around him seemed to be a barbaric time, slaughtering people, Romans taking over much of that part of the world, and he's walking around with a friendly smile on his face? Well, that's going to get your attention. And what happens is, I think the apostles, they wanted to follow him, but they had their own opinions about what was happening, their own fears and doubts. And it's the same with our community. I remember years ago when we all moved out, we were all living at the monastery, and we got the guidance to build a campground right below our monastery. The only thing is, none of us knew how to build a campground. And so we had to just keep praying and praying. And you had to get water rights, and you had to do all this, and septic and sewage. And, none of us knew anything about any of that, but we had to follow along. And then at some point, I could hear the Spirit telling me, just put Lila in charge of the campground. And I thought, fantastic. Now, Lila came from corporate America, so Lila was not a campground builder. She came from corporate America, and we had people there that had construction skills, they had building skills and everything. But the lesson wasn't about picking somebody who's best and has the best skills to build the campground. It was about forgiveness. So I said, okay, Lila's in charge. Well, right away, some of the men were like, you're crazy, Dave. You can't put some ditzy woman who doesn't know a damn thing about building anything in charge of a project like building a campground. That is the most ridiculous thing. And I said, well, just meet with her. And the whole thing was about communication, about releasing judgments. You see, Jesus doesn't really care about a campground, but he does care about forgiveness. So when Lila would meet with all the people that she'd work with, she would focus on communication. Like in her heart, she would pray to open her heart up and learn how to let the Spirit come through her and communicate. And I was thinking about this series called The Chosen, which I really like. It's all about Jesus. And one particular episode that I love the most was you start to know the apostles, and their weaknesses and strengths, seemingly all the things that they're going through. And at one point, Mary Magdalene goes missing. And so Jesus goes and he looks around at all the apostles, and he says, okay, Matthew, and you, and I think it's Andrew, you and Andrew go looking for Mary Magdalene. And they just look at each other in horror. And the rest of the apostles look on in horror. Why is everybody looking on in horror when Jesus Christ has just said, you and you, Andrew and Matthew, you go to the town to try to find her? It's because Matthew was a tax collector, and he was called from being a tax collector to be the apostle. And Andrew is this Jewish man who hates people who he sees are betraying the Jewish nation. The one of all the apostles, the one that Andrew hates the most. I mean, he has an explosive anger underneath every time he's around Matthew, because he believes Matthew has betrayed the Jewish nation and was collecting taxes for Rome against the Jewish people. So Jesus sends them off casually. You and you go find Mary. And what this turns into is that scene shows us how the Spirit used relationships. Because Jesus was basically saying to Matthew and to Andrew, go toward each other, go together. And Matthew's so good with numbers, and he's calculating things, and he's calculating everything. And Andrew is like brave and strong and very into Jewish traditions. And he puts them together to undo their pride. And that's what's happened with all of us. The ones that have come together in our community, we had different skills and abilities. We came from all different parts of the world. And Bava, you're asking the question, how does it work? How do you approach the dreamer of the dream? Is you can actually let the Spirit and Jesus orchestrate the relationships in a way that will bring up the most unconscious darkness, the most unconscious fear, so you can let it go. And that's what you've done, Bob. I know, with Colin, you guys are doing great. You guys are like soaring past the ego's temptations to point the finger or to blame somebody. And the whole mystery school is being blessed by your healing forgiveness, because you are so willing to forgive, and you are so willing to see the light, to see the spark of light, see the vision of Christ in your brother, see beyond the body, see the beautiful innocence, the pure innocence there. So those are some of our examples that this is showing you practically and this is also what Andrea Martin was saying. She says, can you tell me the nuts and bolts of forgiveness as a process? There you go, Andrea. This one's for you. Well, what do you think? Do we have any more we want to share, any more examples, or shall we open it up and launch in with our worldwide audience around the Zoom room?
Yeah, we can open it up. I have something in mind. I was just thinking this thought, let healing be, and trust the healing. Actually, Sven wrote in his experience that he realized that his whole life from beginning to end was all for this purpose of awakening. And it was all set up. It's a setup toward awakening. And I like it so much because that's exactly how, and actually yesterday I watched a little clip about this famous director Terrence Malick, and all the big cast actors come together to discuss how his way of making movies so unconventional. He has no script. He just like bring everybody in and have this confidence. Just let it be and see. And everybody was saying, wow, what is the confidence just to allow to see what intuition gonna take you, and everybody is blessed. And when I was listening to that, I thought, this is truly about this healing journey. The mystery school, 6 weeks, we basically just saying, we're here with such confidence and trust that the Spirit orchestrates the curriculum for absolutely every single one. And it's also collaborative. So there is no chance that this group of people are brought together, because their healing are collaborative. And we do not know how, we do not know who, we do not know what is going to unfold, but we are also witnessing the perfection of the healing. Wow, during the 6 weeks, during the 10 years that I've been living in the community, during every day, it's unbelievable. But this is how healing, if you really wanted a formula, this is what I can say is let healing be, and trust the Spirit's work. Really, really trust, and it's the collaborative we have a part to play. So it's not a inactive part. It's actually an active part to show up, trust the intuition, and then let the healing be. This is just an amazing, amazing journey.
Yeah, that's like those quotes I was reading before the movie about how Jesus saying, I will guide you and tell you what to do. You have a specific part to play in the atonement, and I will direct you. He's basically saying the Holy Spirit will offer the instructions and will literally, moment by moment, dictate what you're to say and do. Well, that's very different than having rituals of just doing the same ritual over and over methodically every day. That's part of the traditional pathway to God. If you would go to a convent or a monastery, you would see that there's lots of rituals, that they basically repeat the same kind of things. And Jesus is not, he's not against using repetition, because that's what his workbook's about. You know, he gives you an idea for the day, and he says, now practice this so many times and repeat this so many times. And he gives specific instructions. And the Holy Spirit and Jesus always do offer very specific instructions, where to go, what to do, who to see. I think that was the thing before the community really got going. I traveled all over the world to 44 countries, and some of those countries were before the community, and some of those countries were when the community started. But I had to learn internally how to connect with Jesus and the Holy Spirit, because I didn't have anybody telling me what to do. I didn't have a Monsignor. I didn't have a Mother Teresa saying, do this, do that. I had to learn from going out and leaving my family, my friends, and my house, and then eventually my country. I had to leave my country behind and go to 44 countries. But what it was Jesus teaching me, listen and follow. I had to learn how to really connect and let Jesus tell me what to say, speak through me, what to do, where to go, who to meet. Tons and tons. There was so many holy encounters with people all over the world, and it went on for years. It actually went on for decades, and that's how I got freed up from this egoic sense of thinking what's best for David. Instead, Jesus says, how about what's best for the whole universe? Why don't you think that way? Jesus is saying, think with me. Like, what blesses the whole universe? How's that for a motive? You know, when you say or do anything, do it for the whole universe. He says that in the workbook. Everything I think and say and do teaches all the universe. So to me, what Francis is talking about is like, this is our calling. This is the calling of your heart. And all we've done is we've answered it. And we've said, we do believe that Jesus will guide us and direct us. We don't think, like Sven wrote in, we don't believe in accidents. Now we see that everything in our seeming earth lives has been orchestrated. Not one single scene in the play was off. Nothing happened out of sequence. Everything happened exactly at the perfect place at the perfect time, and it all is working together for divine innocence. But also what we're starting to see is that we have the means for that. Like, I think everybody's always asking me for practical examples. Like, okay, sounds good. Can you give me another example, David? Please. Didn't get it. One more, please. So here's just one more. When you think of a theater, like a theater and performers, there is such a thing called improvisation. Improv. Has anybody heard of improv before? And improvisation is where you have to really go with it. You know, you get a scene and you're told a few things, and then you have to just jump right in. It's actually a beautiful way of learning how to be spontaneous instead of having to be so ritualized based on the past. When an improv teacher says, you're this, you're this, you're this, go, then you can't rely on a script. You aren't given a part. We have a director who's part of a lot of our movies in mwge.org, and his name is Henry Jaglom, and he's from California. And the way that Henry would make movies is he would get these inspirations and ideas in his mind, and he would not give the parts, the words, to the actors. He would make a scene and he'd get all the actors there and he would give the context, but Henry was like a master of improvisation. So he'd get cameras all around. He'd say, you're this, you don't like this one, she doesn't like you, here's what's going on, these are some of the thoughts in the minds of the characters, this is the context, now go. And imagine being in a movie where you didn't get lines, where you weren't given the lines that you were to speak, you were just given the context. That's what Jesus is doing with us in holy relationship. He's saying, okay, Francis from Beijing, China, David, okay, you're over there from Cincinnati, Ohio. We've got this one from Sweden. We've got this one from New Zealand. This one's from Australia. This one's from Canada, and on and on and on. And then he's like, okay, come on, everybody. All right, get all the actors on the theater screen. Okay, you're all there in the theater. Now here's the context. We're going for spiritual awakening for the whole universe. And we're going to collaborate together and do projects together. And we're going to do all kind of things like he did with the apostles living together and the women's corps, you know, and Mary Magdalene. He got them all together. And then he said, okay, Holy Spirit, give it to us. Give us our parts. Let us play our parts perfectly. Everyone will play their part perfectly. Even Judas Iscariot, he's going to be the one that gives me away. Okay, everybody got your part. Judas, counting on you. You give me away. You give me away to the high priest over there. And I'll go through, I'll pretend like I die, but I'll come back. You know, it was like it was all part of a skit to teach that the Son of God cannot die, that you can't die because God created you. Why would God create something that could die? If God is eternal life, God wouldn't create something that's temporary and perishes. God would create the Christ, the eternal being. And that's who we all are. So I'm just excited to hear what you all have to say after that movie and what Francis and I have been saying, because I hope you feel how excited we are. This is like we can feel swirling in our hearts eternal life. You know, I mean, I've met a lot of people that are really fired up for Jesus and fired up for Krishnamurti and fired up for Buddha and fired up for Ramana. But I've met a lot of people around the world that are fired up, but they're reflections of my desire to wake up. You know, it wasn't just luck that I met all these people that were so fired up. It's because they're reflecting my own joy. The joy in my heart is being reflected. So yeah, I see we got some hands going up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maurice, Roland, David, Sven. Boom, 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 boom. Here we go. Let's go for the non-dual. There's the mystery school coming in there. Karen Carpenter. Okay, it looks like Maurice was the fast one. He was the fast one to get the hand up first, the fast draw. So Maurice, go ahead. We can't hear you. There we go.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, Maurice.
Hi. Hello. Yeah. I've been resisting you for many years, David, and I finally listened to you a few days ago. And here I am, and great peace has come. Great peace. I have been involved long time, learned to follow Spirit long time. And I find myself in an interesting situation now. I have these projects. Now, I was in conflict before here with these projects. One is very strangely building a house for myself. Another one is working to make a garden to pay for it. And I was thinking, I don't really want to be doing this and da-da-da-da-da. And I thought about, you know, I've got to not do this. I've got to not care about what people think. I've got to just renounce all this, whatever. And when I looked with your instruction, vision, and to see the Christ in my client and my builder, I just want to just give them everything. I just want to just absolutely, I don't want to disappoint them at all. I just want to give them everything. So that's how I feel now with it. And I'm not attached to the outcome at all, but it just feels so right.
Thank you, Maurice. You know, that's the greatest gift. You getting in touch with that feeling, that vision inside, and then feeling overwhelming gratitude. That's our lesson. That wow, that's like hitting the lesson right on, hitting the note perfectly. So thank you for your witness, that I know you're a witness for everyone here who's struggling with something, who's got an either or thing going in their mind, and who feels any kind of false responsibility, like, oh my God, how am I going to, what do I have to do to make it happen? And what do I have to figure out? And, you know, you went into the vision, and you could just feel the love and gratitude. And yeah, it brings tears to my eyes that it's that simple, you know, that you're witnessing how simple it can be. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Roland, wow, we just had a beautiful encounter with you, and you touched us all. I'm sure there was not a dry eye in the house after the last time we visited you. So how are things right now for you in your world, in your heart and mind?
Hello, everybody. Hello, David. Hello, Francis. I knew I'm gonna share. Was so nervous the whole day, and actually never prepare. But I thought, yeah, I have to prepare with what I share, and now I feel very peaceful, and so much happens, and I just want not to forget because I'm going to share 3 things, and to pray for love and life for my wife, and everything is possible, and don't want to forget that, and you can join. And it was the day, almost the diagnosis came when we were thinking about divorce, which is really after 6 years of, I told about the communication, and so this made me share. I think without this worst case, I would not have shared so deep as in tribe or here. So it's also the planning for my son fell away. So I feel, am I afraid of listen and follow? Sometimes horribly, sometimes I see clearly, not at all. The day I went like this, sometimes I was in horror or fear, and sometimes in a bliss I never had. And but I can see how this impossible situation is now cracking open. I have to inform my boss that I will not do my stressful project manager thing. I can put 120, and so a lot of things are taken care of. And I will share something about fear, about symbols later. But when I see my wife, she's from originally from Estonia. We met in Switzerland. She just was there a few years, and we had a blind date under the Angel in Zurich. They have a big airport, and it was like I never had a really good relationship. Was not really there, and it was kind of everything was really strange. Went very fast, very peaceful, not really extremely romantic. But we went there and bought. After 1 month, we bought some toy for a boy. And we bought a house. Even though I had no money, I was still doing my doctoral thesis, and I couldn't. But she said, "Yeah, it's okay." The bank so it was very perfect. Everything worked, And as I said, and we had two best-born children, and the loneliness came more. It was so extreme, as I said yesterday. And I want the first things. I have three things I want to put on the altar and share that relate also very much to what you said. So the first is a victim guilt cycle. A lot of guilt I project to myself also. I felt guilty that I didn't mention that due to silence, I had sometimes very much anger tantrums. I was screaming. And also one night I drank too much. I was calling old friends, also old female friends, were quite offensive. Sometimes a bit sexually offensive. I never done that. So it was so shocking that I stopped drinking alcohol completely after this, which for a year. And I was doing ice baths, Wim Hof method. I was buying a freezer. It's like a very healthy thing, but then the heart thing came, and it's not good for. So I lost a bit interest. So the heart thing of my son, so I didn't feel anymore because he couldn't do it later. It was a lot of things I wanted to do with him. I didn't want him being mobbed, so I was boxing with him, and I did 10 years of therapeutic settings. But I want to express this also, that my anger and this guilt of being the offender, which is the worst thing for me. I'm so afraid that I'm the offender because I like to be the victim. I could handle that, get maybe some pity or so, but to be the offender is horror for me. I want to put this guilt on the table because I don't want that. And the second is to see death as a solution for pain and horror, because I would say, if you say ego is a horror suffering wish, as a kid, I was thinking, yeah, it's good that if you're in a wheelchair, you can die, or if you're in the concentration camp, you get tortured, sometimes you would die. It's good, because otherwise this could be eternal. But it's only later than I went to natural science, because I liked abstraction. And without you talking about quantum, and I found also in lesson 161 a quote which was complete abstraction is the natural condition of mind. So without this clear non-duality, I would never have been able so quickly to open to this biblical language, which leads me to the next point, which is a fear of symbols, because I was really having, for me, it was when I was in the 80s, 14, 15, I was always as a kid, felt not really right. And I was feeling, and then in the future, I thought, I'm schizophrenic. And then I remember I was seeing a TV show of schizophrenics, were hearing voices in electric plaques. And a lot of these schizophrenics are associated with the Jesus and the cross. And for me, this was just blank horror, Jesus and the cross. And the church was more like abusing children, priests or something. So I had no relationship at all with all these biblical languages. And if, as a Phil Collins song, I'm talking with Jesus, I'm right, which is a video about these priests who get money and like a sect. And so for me, this all would be really suspicious. But I was drawn a long time, as I said, because what you said was just so clear and true. And so I could easily jump because of this over this barrier of language. And what I in this time also, I did everything from boxing to doing family constellations, where you sit in a circle and then someone is blindly playing out, but it's sometimes I was doing even 9 months course, and I was the only guy with all therapeutic women, and I felt so strange because I wanted to feel more male, and that's why I was boxing. So I had this strange thing. But I always felt they all used these nice symbols, like also the flower and the heart, and I was always, shit, I can't just I'm so afraid of any of these symbols. I can't just say, oh, it's so beautiful, there's this nice heart there. So I really wanted to see where is it. And when Francis said, yeah, it's the attitude, and either see everything as possible to see innocence and not. And this leads me really to a big point. One thing that drove me was learning the song Nothing Else Matters from the heavy metal band Metallica. So in the 80s, when I saw this movie, there was a lot of heavy metal, and some have really like devilish, like Iron Maiden with 666 and all these songs, which were really mainstream. And Metallica also with Seek and Destroy and okay, we're going to kill them all, and it's the songs. But there's this Nothing Else Matters song. Yeah. And when you read that, so close no matter how far, which is very non-dual, couldn't be much more from the heart, forever trusting who we are and nothing else matters. Never opened myself this way. Life is ours. Now is something not so non-dual. We live it our way, but we will forgive. This is not about political correctness. So all these words I just don't say, and nothing else matters. So trust I seek and I find in you, and so on. And actually, there is a movie which called Some Kind of Monster, which has a really one of these heavy metal monsters on it. But with you, this movie is this heavy metal band making expression sessions, a whole movie, because they had a therapist, because James Hetfield, the singer, would come from his alcoholism. And he is an example of retranslation. So he was swearing and he talked about, he's transparent. There's thousands of YouTubes that talks about his dark, and it is more like they bring up the monsters really. Like a woman yesterday said, she looked at murders in Facebook because she needed to see the dark side. And I never shared this because I felt, no, here you have to have the, I was so afraid of Rundle, and with that, what Francis said, you can't say what it is. So I just want to bring in, this is a wonderful retranslation movie. You have this heavy metal band with all this text, which they sit there and make expression session as a therapist finding them, and it's all about transparency. And so this I wanted to say, and yeah, all the good. I'm so grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you, Roland. I love the all-inclusiveness that we can say thank you, Holy Spirit, for the use of this heavy metal band and these beautiful lyrics, non-dual lyrics that come through a heavy metal song. Thank you for cold baths. Thank you for many, many, many cold baths. Holy Spirit could use that. Thank you for silence that's used. Bhavna, 50 ayahuasca or plant medicine experiences. Thank you for ayahuasca and the cracking open of the mind and consciousness through the plant medicine. We can say thank you to it all because we can see the Holy Spirit can use anything. And we don't have to judge anything as good or bad. We don't have to judge the biblical words. We don't have to judge the quantum words. We don't have to judge the psychological words. We don't have to judge anything that the words are. So it's a feeling of love and gratitude, like we're perfect and everything's happening for us. And we haven't really messed it up, you know? And even when the ego tries to tempt you to either be the victim or be the perpetrator, you know, the offender, those are just more tricks, you know. We're neither. We've never been either one because it's just our mind that was sick. We had an insane mind that needed help. And now the help is raining on us. It's just raining down on us. And I thank you so much, Roland, because you're helping everyone here realize that they don't have to hold back. They don't have to hide any experiences that they had, that everything can get used for the good, and everything is used by the Holy Spirit for the great awakening. So we're not here to judge against anyone or anything. We're just here to express our gratitude. And yeah, thank you for your courage too. A lot of courage to share what you shared. So thank you. Thank you, Roland. Okay, we've got David there. We got a couple Davids. Let's go with David, the one with the headsets on. That's it. We've got multiple. There's David's all over the screen.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, David.
I'm moved to share an experience I had a couple of weeks ago that just seems so divinely coordinated to fit in here. There were a lot of themes associated with it, having to do with judgment and illusion and not taking the illusion very seriously. It's been my experience that that on the odd occasion that I've had marijuana, that it's not been a good experience for me. I've been very I get uncharacteristically very people would say uncharacteristically, based on how they usually see me in this waking dream, uncharacteristically very paranoid and very delusional. So I guess as an exercise in moving towards my fear and to deal with whatever would be revealed, I decided to try some marijuana again after years, and so I did become very paranoid. I did become very delusional, but still aware enough to realize that what is and very fearful. Aware enough to realize that anything that was happening, anything I was experiencing, any appearances that showed up were not me, so to speak. So just kind of being an observer. So fears came up about being a loser, being ultimately being alone in the universe. There not being another living, loving soul to be had in existence, being doomed to be in that state for all of eternity, and something really odd, kind of I found especially odd that was happening was I was hearing the voice of somebody who sounded like they had a voice from it was like they were set in the 60s, and he had this big audience in front of him. So he was the host of a show, like an entertainment show, and the entertainment show was basically about him commenting on, oh, look at this guy, what a loser he is, and how he's not going to take the steps to get out of this, as if there were steps to get out of that. And so, it got to a point where basically it was, a commentary on every thought that I was thinking, and everything I was doing, every thought that I was thinking. But at one point, I don't know why exactly. I mean, I was asking for help with it. That was probably a big part of the why. But also, I think because I was just kind of accepting, my perception of what was happening in that moment, and realizing ultimately that I couldn't be hurt. And so the scene flipped around, where basically I was just narrating, every thought that came into my head over every single day. And instead of being the brunt of the joke, it was like, the scene was, I was on the screen as a comedian, and my life was funny. Even the most mundane thoughts, everything was funny, and everybody there was taking it as comedic, as hilarious. So it was after that kind of I guess resolution, so to speak. I'd always been, I'd been for a while, quite a while before that experience, I'd been praying for and idealizing, wanting to have an experience where I felt one with everything. I mean, logically, I do have the awareness that everything is dream. I do have the awareness that I'm connected to everything, but never having felt that embodied experience, so to speak. And so after that, after living, experiencing through those fears, realizing that all those appearances were not me, and just seeing the humor of it all. I did very much have an experience where, everything kind of, for lack of a better word, pixelated, and I realized that, this character that seems to be David, the David character, the David avatar, whatever you want to call it, was no more real, no less real than any of the other appearances that I was experiencing. The only thing that was real was awareness itself, regardless of what I was seeing and regardless of how I judged what I was seeing. Other than that, I just really want to say this weekend has been especially deep and nurturing, I suppose, for me. There's so much more I feel in that regard, but not so much more that I can put into words. So thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Thank you. We feel it. We all feel it. Oh, beautiful. What a sweet testimony. We love it. We love it. Seeing the pixelation at the end. Yes, it's like the Matrix. Everything turns green for Neo, and for you, yes, it's pixelating. Oh, very good. Well, Sven, there we go. We've got Sven coming in here next.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. I heard my name so many times. I thought I have to say something now because otherwise it's weird.
Yes.
Yes. Well, when I wrote you, what I actually want to bring across is that we cannot imagine who we are. So it was such a surprise when that moment in Germany after the retreat with Gangaji happened, because it just took me by surprise, a complete surprise. I really felt like I was lifted out of my body almost. So it was, even though you can say it was a non-dual experience, it was actually not that non-dual. I felt like this enormous being. So my first shock was, God is real. Like, I was completely shocked by it because I was always used to think of God as a concept or as, as a figure, and not as such something that is so real and tangible. And in the same instant, and I have to say words don't do any justice, so it's just the way to describe it, I realized it was myself. So it was like the combination of the relief I was not this character, and the combination of the joy of the bigger self that he found me in this dream. So I felt found, and it was like the ecstasy of being found. So the biggest surprise was actually the amount of joy and love that, the tears were just streaming down my face. And I remember that the amount of love that I experienced in that moment is not of this world. So it's you can't describe it. But anyway, why the course is so brilliant is afterwards, I still had to go through so many situations that you need to incorporate the dream. You actually need to include it. That's why the course is brilliant, because other teachings say, you just deny it and you focus on God all the time. But in a modern world, modern society, that's almost impossible. And especially, in relationships or working place, whatever. So even after that experience, I had many panic attacks prior to it and afterwards. And that's so weird. It's actually funny when I think about it now, because, here I am. I know I'm immortal because I've seen it myself directly. And still there was all this fear in my body for death. So I had to go through it. And one night it was so bad, I had to call my father to pick me up from my house because I felt I was going to die of a heart attack. And I went to the hospital, and the doctor was looking at me like, I don't know what you've been smoking, but, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not that old. You don't look that unhealthy. So everything is okay. And in that moment, I saw that a sick body is as an illusion as a healthy body. So because of that experience, I never had any panic attack ever. So what I'm trying to say is this dream is almost like a necessary experience in order to fully awaken out of it. So even when you have a glimpse, it's great, but it can also work the other way around, because I also had times where I was really depressed afterwards, because, I mean, what am I doing still here? You know, here I am, I've been touched by this love, and still I need to be in this world where I can't find anything that comes even close to it. So I really I'm really starting to see the usefulness of this experience, and that it's actually all there to bring you closer and closer to where you actually still are in reality. So yeah, that's the main thing in this moment.
Thank you, son.
Yes.
Thank you. I love your example, because I can certainly relate to it. That I had 3 of those glimpses, 3 revelatory experiences that was just pure blazing. The world disappeared. It just went, everything was direct connection. And that was basically, that was like maybe within the first 5 years of my working with the Course in Miracles. So I've been with the Course in Miracles 35 years. But just like you wrote in your question, you said, well, the 9 years after that experience with Gangaji there, and you actually had to go through an integration, and that's beautiful witness for everybody here, because that's why we talk about collaboration. That's why we talk about transparency, open communication, giving ourselves over in a practical way, moment by moment, to integrate the mind. And Jesus talks about that in the Course, where he says that the correction, which is that amazing kind of experience, the correction actually has to be applied to specifics, because you still believe in the specifics. You know, it's abstract, it's vast, it's indescribable, it's oh my God, God is real. You know, it's that, and yet it has to be applied to specific situations where the belief says, no, I'm human, and no, this one did something to me, and you know, all the unconscious beliefs. Even that piercing of the veil is a good taste, is a good glimpse, but sometimes people feel envious of that, and it's like, no, there's nothing to be envious about. It's helpful, and it was helpful for you and I, but that's not where the work is. And I know with Bhavna, if she's had, you know, 50, Bhavna, if you had 50 plant medicine experience, and Roland, if you've been in cold ice, in the ice bath for many, many times, and some of you have meditated for years, and whatever you use, family constellations, all kinds of different kinds of experiences, it still comes down to that practice, that willingness to practice in the moment with, who am I showing up for here? What is it that I want to give? What is it that I have to offer and extend? And when we give ourselves to that practice, then it washes away our doubts about who we are. And so thank you so much for sharing that, because you're bringing in that aspect again of the glimpse and how powerful that was. So we're not trying to downplay how important that was. And yet we're saying, regardless, we still have to keep at it for integration. We have to let ourselves be fully whole, fully healed, not hiding anything, not keeping anything out of awareness, but bringing everything fully up into awareness, which is the whole point of, we want pure awareness. We won't be satisfied for anything other than pure awareness. So what a blessing. I'm glad we mentioned your name a few times, and I'm glad you shared your wisdom with us all. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Okay, looks like it. Is that Bhavna? Are you? You've had your name called a few times too, so you're ready and raring to go there from the mystery school.
Hi, David. Hi, Francis.
Hi.
I have a relationship question. So last night I was assigned to work with one lady to do the meditation, to host the meditation this morning. And I knew it like the dyads for the meditations had been kind of reconfigured because I had some healing to do with this lady. And our topic of the meditation was all about forgiveness. And I could tell it was being sort of unraveled. And as we ended the meditation, I thought it was over, but then I asked to join with her after that. And I had some things that I wanted to bring up, some grievances that I had to talk through and expose the beliefs that I had that were coming up from those grievances. And I could partially see that she had been sincere in that situation, and it was my belief that was, you know, sort of projecting those stories and creating agreements. And then as I started talking, I realized, so she's British, and I feel triggered, very triggered by the two British people that are here, because I grew up in England. And I thought when I moved to the US, I could just bury it all and, you know, forget about it. Whatever I experienced in England as a child, it was hell on earth for me, actually. But then I started to talk more to her and bring up more things. And I felt that there was this big darkness in me that was trying to express itself. But it seemed that it seemed to me that she didn't want to join with me for very long about it. She said that, you know, for example, issues with race, that's been huge for me. Being a minority, or, you know, identifying with, you know, I guess a marginalized group or someone that's oppressed or subjugated. And, you know, that started to come up. And I know this is the story of Bhavna, this is the story of the person, but I feel it still has to come up in the same way that it did with Colin. Like, I had to go down into the depths of the darkness in order for me to rise up. And now I can safely say I don't feel any anger towards him at all. You know, I don't even know what it's like to feel angry at Colin. I only see, you know, it feels neutral. So something was pulling me to talk about all this sort of darkness. And then she said, you know, I don't see color, and I don't see the issue. Actually, I don't feel any sort of trigger with this issue about race and that sort of thing. And actually that made me more angry, because I thought, this person is not wanting to go there with me. Here I am wanting to have an 8-hour expression session with her, and she wants to leave, you know, and she doesn't want to talk to me. And she said, yeah, I don't see any of that. That's you, that's your stuff. And I want the joy, and I want the peace, and I want what the state that David's in, and I just don't feel what you're feeling. And I thought, well, if I'm triggered by you, then obviously we have some sort of charge between each other, and I'm feeling it, and I want to talk about it, and I want to go there. But I feel like this symbol is running away from me, and I feel abandoned because I can't join with her on it. At the same time, I don't know if I'm the ego is trying to drag her down into my story, into my darkness, and trying to wallow in that. But I desperately have this prayer to rise above that and forgive, because I know it's very strong in our awareness today to come into peace with each other. All the British symbols, so-called, that I must make peace with that past of mine, seemingly. Yeah, and I asked Colin about it. I said, what do I do if I'm triggered by a symbol? And it seems like they don't want to join with me, you know? Are they stuck in the face of innocence? And he said, no, stick with what you're feeling. And what I'm feeling is I'm feeling more angry and more triggered and abandoned because I can't express it for 8 hours with this person. So, but I want peace. I want peace with her. I want forgiveness, and I want it to be released.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I think that's the beautiful thing is that everything comes to us. It's like everything, as Sven was saying before he wrote in, just saying it feels like his whole life has been completely orchestrated, and everything that happens is for our good. It's for our healing. And it starts to take it away from the personal, like thinking, oh, I Bhavna, what do I need to do to bring about the healing? To start to feel like, wow, the Spirit loves you so much and is working with your mind and your heart so that you can, like Pocahontas, paint with all the colors of the wind. That's Jesus's version of really starting to appreciate everything. But I do understand that, as Francis was saying, that we're drawn towards certain people for the healing release, you know, and it's not so much a personal thing. We tend to try to see it in a personal way, but it's not that way. I know there's been experiences in my life where I've been traveling to countries and places. My last name is a German name. My grandfather's name was Heinrich Hermann Hoffmeister. One time I'm traveling around the world in my 44 countries, and I found myself in Berlin. And I'm like, oh, Berlin. And I went to a park in Berlin, and I was sitting there watching children play in a park in Berlin. And Jesus said, look down. And I said, what? And he said, there's a book under you. And I was like, what? So I reached under the park bench in Berlin, and it was a book of Nazi Germany. This is Jesus's kind of humor. He takes you to Berlin, and he puts a book about Nazi Germany underneath to see if you have any kind of association with anything. And he's so humorous that way, that what he does is he constantly is bringing us into situations to humorously show us that we're not what we think we are, that nothing we see and nothing we believe is real. And that's why he says, you know, to learn this course requires willingness to question every value that you hold. Not one can be kept hidden, or it will obscure your learning. So I've had so many of those situations where I find myself watching a thought come up, and I start to realize that it's not really about David the person, and it's not really about what seems to be the other person. The lesson is even beyond that, but that it will come to you. So everything that you seem to need to experience that dreamer of the dream perspective, it's on its way. I mean, because the love is so strong, and the love is wanting us so much to be free, that it's on its way. But it's not something that you personally have to try to make happen. So you can kind of start to relax and go, wow, I've got a lot going for me here, and I don't have to personally make it happen or figure it out. Even relationships, you know, I think that is the value, where it doesn't even matter if you've pushed away relationships a part of your devotional path, that it at any moment the Spirit will start to say, I'll show you how they can be used in a helpful way, but also to show you that you never did anything wrong. You really haven't messed up or wasted time. You haven't done anything wrong. So I'm just so glad that you're with us, and you're giving your whole heart and soul to this healing, and we all feel it. We see it on your face. We see you're just so willing, and that's your part, just to remain willing, because Jesus will humorously lift us higher and higher and higher, and we don't have to figure out that. It's just beautiful. Francis, you have something for that too?
Yeah, I do see that. With you, Bhavna, you're so fast. You came the first day, you completely undo your diet preference on day one, and normally it's like a big preference, and then you go toward the relationship things, and now it's like all this healing is wanting to happen, and it happened at a very, very fast pace. But it is truly through trust. And I know when a group of people come together, even in the community, it is so funny, because people's issues with their home, family members, all got presented once again with a different group, but who share a shared purpose. And it's just to almost like a replay. And I remember at the beginning days, sometimes people come together for expression sessions. Oh, you remind me of my ex-wife. And then there's like a triggering both sides. I don't know who your ex-wife, don't project onto me. So it's like, but this is truly, I just see the divine orchestration for healing, and for the fact that it is presenting a deeper belief issue, identity issue, and just the fact that it can be seen, and we just trust that is all working for the best. And we don't know how the healing happens. We don't know how that moment is going to come about, where your mind just click, oh my God, who am I fooling, But we don't know how that, but we trust this is presenting right in front of us, and we give our willingness. So yeah, that's what I can say.
Thank you. Thank you, Paula. Thank you. Okay, we've got Karen Carpenter.
Hi, Karen. Oh, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you. Not yet.
No, still.
Looks like you have a microphone issue, Karen. We could try to come back to you, but you might just need to check your sound preferences there, because it looks like you're unmuted. So we could circle back around.
We'll circle back.
Okay. We'll go to David.
Hi, guys.
Hi, David.
I love you so much. I love everybody here, and every weekend we spend together is just, it's powerful. It's like a broken record. But what I love about this weekend, and you're just talking about it, is every person who shared, the panel Friday night, your sharings, every moment is a stepping stone. And what I really get, I've tried to control, like, I want to follow guidance. I want to hear guidance, and I want it now. And why is it not happening now? And the whole point is just the willingness. And I just got from this weekend the trust and the willingness to devote to the desire for it. Truth will be returned to our awareness by our desire. So I love that. And I just felt really inspired and guided to share a physical miracle, a healing that was super powerful. So in September, I had a a serious pain come into my hip, and I didn't know why. And after seeing my doctor, chiropractor, and physical therapist, they all said the same thing. They said, your IT band is really tight from the hip bone down into the quad. So after 5 weeks of physical therapy, November 4th, I go back and see my doctor. I tell him it's about 80% healed. He says, all right, well, just keep stretching, and physical therapy isn't going to help you anymore. I said, okay. 2 days before Christmas, I go to see my chiropractor for a back adjustment. He decides to stretch my IT band, and it re-aggravated the whole mess, worse than it was before. Severe pain. I could hardly get in and out of bed. Couldn't move in bed hardly. Couldn't get my shoes on hardly. I mean, I was limping. It was in my quad. And then I'm thinking to myself, what about Mexico? Is this going to ruin everything for me? This is terrible. And little did I know, the Spirit had a plan. And I tried to show you this a few months ago, but read this from the bottom. Let's see here. Oh, come on. Come on.
There it is.
Right there.
David. And what's the other one?
Stop ego, David.
Stop ego, David.
So that was the plan. So Friday, Christmas Eve morning, I called the doctor to make an appointment for Monday and get more physical therapy. And I'm worried about coming to Mexico. Spirit says, don't worry about it. Sunday night, I'm going through MWGE looking for a movie. There's a movie that I hadn't seen. I passed over. I've never watched it. I passed over it for a year. Labyrinth. And at the end of the movie, the young lady is facing the evil ego character. And her statement was, you don't control me. And I had an aha moment. I stopped the movie and I said with conviction, ego, you don't control me anymore, because I don't believe you anymore. And by the way, I'm going to La Casa de Milagros no matter what. 3 days later, my hip was completely healed. Gone. History. All I know is everybody here, you guys, the community, Spirit brought me home to you guys. So thank you. I love you.
Thank you. We love you, David.
Oh, so beautiful.
What a story. You just put your foot down on the ego. No, sorry, you don't control me. The power of the mind. It's like Jesus saying, depart from me, to the ego, depart from me. And so we're so glad, we're so happy for you, and we're so great for that witness. And thanks for that great photo too. That's a graphic symbol. That's our graphic symbol. We can put any name in front of the stop ego. Thank you, David. Love you. Looks like Gisela Rivera. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, I have so much gratitude to be here. I've been following you guys for a while already. I've done volunteer work to translate things from Spanish to English and the other way around. And I wasn't going to come to this retreat, but I don't know, something kept on calling me and saying, do it, do it. I'm in Lima, Peru, and the price was kind of expensive for me, but I was like, I have the money, I'm gonna do it. So the last minute, I did it, right? Like 5 minutes before the retreat was gonna start. And I'm so happy that I was here for the whole weekend. It just helped me so much. And Well, one question, and my question is kind of similar to Bhavna, so I don't know if you'll have the same answer, but what my question was, when Francis was describing how to go towards, the people that you have grievances, right? Just so much emotion came up, right? I just started crying because it just felt, I don't even know how to describe how it felt, but I just felt like crying. And at that moment also felt scary, right? Like I'll be so scared to be put in the situation where I have something, feeling, some grievance to somebody, and I have to go face it, right? Because that's just so out of the ordinary for me. So, one of my questions is that, like, how do I face that fear? And then the other question is, and this is the one that I think is similar to Bhavna, is I was thinking, there are some people that I have grievances towards, right? And I don't feel like they're available, right? Like, for instance, I don't know, like my boyfriend's ex-girlfriend, right? Like she's, I don't even have her phone number or anything, but I know I have a grievances, right? I know it's there. Or like, Trump, or, somebody that it's not available for me to go towards. And what do I do? What do I do in that situation? And if you can tell me, those are my questions.
That's beautiful. What's beautiful, because it's like every person is a thought. So whenever we start to feel angry or fearful when we think of a person, then they're really just offering us a gift, like they're reflecting, oh, what is it that I still think or believe? And this person is giving me the gift of showing me my unconscious mind. So you have a lot of gratitude when you see it that way, because you couldn't see it without them. Obviously it was hidden, and then they show up. And the other thing I want to come back to is that, like I was telling Bhavna, you don't have to try to figure it out. It's not like Jesus is saying, now write a list of all your enemies and go find them and visit them. Go to the United States and Florida and find Trump in Margot or wherever he's living. You go to your ex-boyfriend's ex-girlfriend or whatever, and seek her out and find her, because it's in the mind. And if there is anything that's to happen, that will be totally given and orchestrated. I was thinking years ago, I used to go to these giant, very large Course in Miracles conferences. There'd be like 500 Course in Miracles teachers and students would come together for these big conferences, usually in the Holiday Inn or some giant hotel in San Francisco or down in to the south somewhere. And I remember one time, Kirsten and I, we went to one of the conferences, and we said, well, we were praying, which one should we go into? Let's go into this one to hear this speaker. So we walked in, it was really packed. We barely got a seat on the edge of a row, and I was there, then there was Kirsten there, and then there was one seat open. And I think it was probably the only seat in the auditorium that was open. There was like hundreds of people. And I just noticed, I said, wow, that's interesting. There's a seat open. So we're getting ready to start. And through the door comes into the room is a man who had been writing hateful emails to Kirsten and I, threatening emails, hateful emails, really seemingly degrading emails, not just for a few of them, but for years, constantly sending these kind of things. And I looked, and there he was. He walked right into the door, and then he looked around for a seat, and there was only one seat in the whole place at this Course in Miracles conference. So I watched him walk up, and he sat right down next to Kirsten. And I just was like, oh, Jesus, you always have so much fun. We don't even have to figure out how the healing process works. So, and he was there and he kind of looked over at us and he was kind of like, oh my God, what have I done? That wasn't just the beginning. Then the man who was teaching said, now we're going to do an experiential exercise to start things up. So I want you to all to stand up and look to your right. I want you to hug the person to your right. So Kirsten stood up and she put her arms around this guy, and I leaned over and I put my arms around this guy. And then he just was like, and I thought, Jesus, you have so much fun. And that was the same conference, I think, where it was in a high rise. So I would be in an elevator shaft with a bunch of Course in Miracles teachers and students, maybe like 8 or 10. And I knew them, and I knew from knowing them over the years where their grievances were and who they didn't like and who they disliked and who they hated. This is all in a Holiday Inn. So I'm in the elevator and every floor would go ding, the door would open, and I would be standing next to somebody and I knew who they hated. And they would be or on the other side of the door and get into the elevator. And I watched for like 3 days going up and down. I just wanted to go to the elevators because I said, Jesus is like, oh, he's having so much fun in the elevator shaft. I don't even want to go to the presentations. It's more fun in the elevator shaft because Jesus orchestrated all these healings with Course in Miracles teachers and students who don't really go in the same building except once a year. And when Jesus got them all in the same building and the same elevator, he just boom, 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 boom. So Bhavna and you don't have to figure out, like if there's somebody that you're to forgive, Jesus is going to have some fun bringing forgiveness into your mind. And it's really all you have to do is have the willingness, like David was saying, just have the desire and the willingness. And then you'll see the perfect movie like David just saw, Labyrinth, or in this case, this man, I could have never orchestrated that or predicted that in a million years. And when it happened, I just was laughing on the inside. I just thought, oh man, you are having too much fun with this forgiveness game. So you can just relax, and you don't have to like take it on yourself to try to, like, do I have to face them? Do I have to go to them? That you don't really have to force anything.
Oh, Karen is back. Let's see whether...
Yeah, let's try Karen Carpenter again.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so there was a technical glitch on Thursday, and when I went to my email, I didn't see any Zoom links, and I was experiencing a massive amount of resistance to coming to the workshop or to the retreat. And I thought, well, I just really don't want to go. But then I thought, I better go because I already spent the money on this retreat, and I should reach out to somebody and get the links. And I got them. And boy, am I so glad that I did. And I had an experience this morning where I really did experience just a tiny, tiny bit of willingness or a recognition that my will is God's will, and that I really do want to lay aside all of this anger and this rage and this hatred and all of this garbage. And I have felt a deep desire to live in community, and so I just want to put that on the altar. And thank you so much. This has been more than I ever thought it ever could be, and so I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, it's beautiful. We always stay so wide open because we know that's how it works. Jesus just orchestrates the coming together, and And so here you got to have this experience just digitally, even with the resistance, even with the hesitation, the miracle came just shining through, and you're kind of a testimony to how impactful that can be. Even a 3-day weekend online can be life-changing and help boost your spirits. And so, yeah, we'll just keep that in prayer too, about community, because we're always praying for Jesus, always to show the way. And as David was sharing, he's been thinking of coming down to Mexico, and then this other thing came up, and then he was like, he told the ego, no, I'm not going to listen to you. And by the way, I am going to Mexico no matter what. Almost like he really put his foot down. He didn't leave no back talk. This is exactly what I'm doing. So the Labyrinth movie really fired him up. He was not going to be hesitating on that at the end of that movie. So we love you, Karen. We're so glad that you made it through, and you've got your microphone working, and it's great. It's all good. Thank you. Okay, looks like Sabine is on her iPad there. Sabine, it's hard for us to keep track of you, whether it's Germany or Peru or Mexico. You went from a retired lady to a globe-trotting peace pilgrim. Now we don't even know. Slava was saying, "Where's Sabine? I saw her on the screen," and I said, "She's gone into the ethers now. The ego is going to have trouble keeping up with her. She's flying high."
I've been flying high since I saw you the last time in Ayayik in the food court,
Yes,
and
yes.
you asked me to go on this adventure trip. I mean, it was. I'm still in Peru. I haven't left Peru since approximately 2 years now. I left Germany, I think, in the middle of January in 2020, just to go for a three-month trip through South America, which was actually inspired by one of your posts on Facebook. You posted, I think, in 2020, and you said, if you want to really learn to rely on spirit, just go for a spirit-guided tour through South America. And I never had any idea going to South America. It was not on my plan, but I just trusted it. And step by step, so I'm so grateful for all you guys from Living Miracles, to you also, Francis. I met you in Holland, and then Kirsten, she was my first encounter with some of you in Germany, and then it was you, David, who really, really encouraged me to come here. And then I was in Mexico, left all my things there in Ayayik, and then I came here to the Sacred Valley in Peru to go to see Jeff and his companion just for 2 weeks to visit Machu Picchu, and I'm still here. Nothing has been planned at home. I still have all my things at home. Some people take care of it. I don't know what the future is like. I just go with the flow from day to day. I don't know why I landed here. What's the purpose? But I'm going through it, and the future is uncertain. I don't know if and when or whatever I go back to Germany, but it's not important anymore. It's not important at all. I've been on such an adventurous, but also very, very, very challenging trip, because it was just the lockdown, and I couldn't get out. And then I couldn't get out the whole year. Last year, we had really a severe lockdown, and the beginning of this year, I decided, no, I don't want to go home. I had the strong feeling, no, things are getting worse. I'm better here. And now I'm so grateful. When you follow the news in Germany, oh no, I couldn't be in a better place at this time. So I'm having of course, it's also, there are some emergency things happening here, and I have to improvise from day to day, but I feel quite safe. And so, my God, I can't express my gratitude. I can't put it in words. it's just.
Yeah. Well, you are kind of like our poster child for listen and follow, because like I shared briefly, I think I called you up on Facebook Messenger, and you were just there at your apartment in Germany, and you were just so transparent, said, now what do I do? I've retired and I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And that's exactly the point where we joined in mind. And I said, oh my gosh, this whole awakening journey is such an adventure. Now things really begin. You just retired. Now it's going to be some fun. So instead of being like a boring, like I've got to play out my retirement years, and you so willingly joined and connected. I remember meeting you there at the monastery when we were having an event, and you were there. I remember how we were having lunch there in Achichik, and I remember how Jesus orchestrated the entire lunch just for you, because you started off just talking to me, saying you had some doubts about, going to Peru and the altitude, and you were just sharing your fears and everything. And then one by one, people came and sat down at the table we were. Oh yeah, I've been to Peru. Oh, I'll tell you everything you want to know about Peru. And then this, and then this, and then even the music. Jesus put the music on above you, which was encouraging you. And I thought, look at Jesus. He's having so much fun at this. Starts out as a simple lunch, and after about an hour and a half, he's got you convinced to go to Peru, which is the last thing that you thought when you were in Germany. You had no idea of that. So you are really the perfect example, the poster child of what Jesus is teaching us this weekend about trust, listen, and follow. And a whole wonder of miracles come your way, because it takes us out of the trappings of the past. It takes us away from our closed perspective on the world, where we just think of ourselves as a tiny self. And you've been on this adventure through all those places. For me, 44 countries. I mean, Jesus had a field day with me. At the beginning, I was like, whoa, I take one trip to one country and my heart goes open, and I'm thinking, thank you, that's good. We did it, didn't we? And Jesus is like laughing, like, ha, we're just starting, And that's the way it goes with all of us. We just move in that direction and allow ourselves to be guided. So you are living proof of guidance, because there is no way anyone in Germany could have predicted Sabine would go over there. And then we have our other Sabine. I thought, what's the chances I meet two Sabines from Germany, and I never even heard the name before, and both of you have been really strong pillars of listen and follow. You both have really showed it. Maybe somebody needs to unmute.
Yeah. No, but I have to admit, it has not always been easy. Not at all. There were big challenges I had to really go through. And sometimes I felt really weak, and I say, no, what am I doing here? I go right back to Germany. And then I had some friends, some people showed up just convincing me, what are you going to do there in Germany right now? So there is always help, and Jesus, our spirit, speaks to you in so many ways. For me, most of the time, and people just showed up when I mostly needed them.
Yeah.
This was so, and speaking of the altitude, so I was so surprised. I have a little dog now, and we were hiking in 5,000 meters. I never ever would have imagined this before. I didn't even want it to come to Mexico, which is only 1,500. But even more than the double, no way. I had heart issues, nothing of this anymore. So.
Yeah, that's it. Jesus showed up every little step, just like the movie we saw. There was one little sign, another, the people around you. So this is a good answer to people who say, I can't hear the Holy Spirit. I can't hear Jesus. And it's like, oh, don't think Jesus is limited by you're not hearing him. He'll put it in dreams. He'll put it in signs and symbols all around us, like we saw in the movie. And these two people, Rachel and Jerry, they weren't even consciously on any kind of spiritual path, and yet they had all the signs and symbols to let their fears up and talk about their deepest issues with each other. And then finally, in the end, the soft kiss on the cheek and the birthday party, it just shows it's all worth it, you know. It's showing us all the time it's so worth it. So thank you, Sabine. We love you. We love you so dearly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Nani and David, I see Nani's been praying there. Oh, I've seen you just praying and praying and praying and praying. And we're so grateful. We're so grateful you and David are with us again. So who's pushing the button today? Yesterday it was, oh, this time it's Nani. David's pointing. She's the one.
Yeah, praying and praying and praying, but mostly keeping my eyes closed and just listening to everybody's shares, yours for sure, Francis, since day one, the opening, the movie yesterday, the breakout room, and then when we all got back together with Peter, and he spoke a little bit about the reluctant saint. And I did share in the breakout room that I saw myself at some point in the movie looking to another side, not to the screen, because I didn't want to see that, because in my eyes they were like cars crashing and, you know, all that stuff, like fire and escaping, and they were playing these roles in their characters of, you know, anxiety, this woman worried about her son, and this man, and since the beginning until when they decided to trust, right? But there were several moments in which there were probably two mostly, like when I just, but naturally, not like, oh my God, I don't want to see this. No, I just turned my face to another side, and I said, I just don't want to look at that because I don't want to. It's just, this is all a dream. I mean, we're all dreaming, and why do I need to see this? And I remember Deepak. So I was a teacher of Deepak Chopra when I did the whole Vedic master thing, and we studied Advaita and non-duality and all this thing about non-local. And yeah, where your attention goes, your energy flows. And it's been my journey of healing. It's been in the linear time, as you would say, if you want to. Not that I would just bring the reluctant saint, you know, because it's not me, it's not the I. And I have been blessed so many times with universal consciousness, cosmic consciousness, outside body experiences. I cannot count how many ayahuasca ceremonies I've done, but more than that, prayer and vipassanas. And I've walked in Israel, the path of Jesus Christ. I've seen his feet in mine. And I know that this is a dream. So, but I also know that whether I have a name and a last name, and there's some body by my side that's dreaming this dream in the physical realm close to me, I choose peace. I choose classical music. I choose rainbows and butterflies. I also watch Enchant, the Disney movie, and this whole family and the little girl, you know, worrying about her worth and her own miracle. And then the grandma coming to her and telling her, you know, no, you are, and it was all my fault, and it's nobody's fault, and there is no bodies, and there's no Deepak, and there's no David, and there's no I, and there's no you as a body. So my sharing yesterday was more of this question of, I just choose not to watch these scenes out of preferences, but then I said to myself, and I've been praying about it, and I said, this is an ego thing. Maybe you still have something because you are still in a body. So don't forget that you are still in a body. You still every now and then have sex with David. Yes, you do. So, and you know how that feels. Sometimes you like it, sometimes you don't. It's all good. But the point here is, and I did say I want to place this in the altar because I feel that there's maybe a side in my mind, in my unconscious mind, that still feels the guilt of separation from God. But I know that I am not separated from God. So I think I've had my answer, my prayer last night. I've been praying so hard, and I've been just because I trust. I've had those experiences with ayahuasca, without ayahuasca, after prayer, in silence. I have seen all the mighty companions ascending towards the light as without a body that we think we are, and I'm just blessed. But sometimes I feel that, why do I have to watch things? I don't watch news. I don't want to. It's preference. Is it an ego thing? I just know. And yeah, I was talking to David that I want to join La Casa too. That's funny that David, the first David, said that. And I think I told you this, David Hoffmeister, a long time ago, that I want to go, and every time I've been to Vipassanas, I've always asked to myself, why am I doing this? Am I escaping from the world? Do I not want to see what's out there? Because I know I only want to see and believe truly what's within. And that's the real connection. That's when you say, I depend fully on God. And I'm a follower. I follow my call, the call. I do answer. This is God's calling. I do. And I say this with absolute humbleness, because I'm not better than anyone here that do not have had those experiences. It's just, the Zoom meetings are also part of the dream, but we are so convinced that we are real as personalities and self-identification, and it's just wonderful when you can just step out, like truly, and with absolute love and gratitude to you, David, because even if I don't go to La Casa or I go to La Casa, nothing's going to change in my consciousness and my awareness of God. And I just want to share this because it's something that made me question yesterday my connection with God. And there's no such as scissors or anything that will ever disconnect me from the source, from the wholeness, from the consciousness, from the Tao, or whatever you want to call it. And yes, I love Jesus. He's part of us. We are one with him. And that's all.
Thank you, Nani. Yeah, I really feel your heart. I know you've given your heart to practice this in so many ways and have had so many, a vast array of experiences with giving your heart over and just saying, I'm here for you, God. I'm here to heal. I'm here to bless the world. And I know there was one point where I was reading the Course, and sometimes I would read a sentence and I would have to stop. I'd have to do a double take. I'd have to go back because I'd say, no, what? Wait a minute. What did you just say? And one of the ones that really helped me was when Jesus said the line in the text. He said, the more you look at fear, the less you see of it. And I said, say what? what did you say? The more you look at fear, the less you see of it. Then I had to pray to Jesus, and I said, now you're going to have to give me the interpretation of that sentence, because I don't understand what that means. What do you mean? The more you look at fear, the less you see of it. I've taken all these courses that talk about where you put your attention and this, and now you're saying the more you look at fear, the less you see of it. He said, what I mean is the more you look at the fear within, the less you'll see of it reflected in the world. Because the ego is the unconscious mind, it's hidden. And what we want is to see what we've hidden from ourselves. It's like we seem to be playing hide and seek with our divine self, and we hide it, we hide the light in our mind, we put a lot of black beliefs and dark thoughts over the top of it, and then we play hide and seek, where there's some kind of hiding. We're not even aware of how we're trying to hide. We forgot all about that. So I think it's also helpful to remember that the happy dream, that's our goal, a happy dream, right? We don't want more than that. We're not trying to even know God directly, because Jesus says that's a little too far. He says, here, I've got something for you to work on. Here, chew on this one, forgiveness. Don't go for revelation yet. You've got some forgiveness work to do. And what that is just a dream of non-judgment. And I thought, wow, that's what you said in the Bible, judge not. But it's like for the last 20 centuries, we've been trying to handle those two words, judge not. And he said, well, think of it this way, that my guidance, the Holy Spirit's guidance for you is still evaluative. So you'll still be guided to go here, like you were guided to leave Peru and go to Oregon and be with David and his children. That was a huge, huge step, but it was a guidance, and you followed the guidance. And just like Sabina was talking, she retired from her job, and then she just started to say, okay, I'm on an adventure. And all I did is I've just followed the guidance. I took the next right step. I could feel the rightness of going there and being with David and his children. I took the next right step. And now the ego is trying to run a guilt trip on me about, could I do this or that, or all the hypotheticals. The ego is always trying to think, something could be different, but nothing can be different. We're just all taking the next right step, and it's that simple. And you did it. And look at the blessings that have come both to you and David from that next right step. That was huge. That was absolutely huge. And there'll be all these blessings that just will continue, and all this healing that continues. So it's beautiful, because we don't really need to try to figure the spiritual journey out. In fact, I think my whole lesson was learning to trust. And like Francis said, focus on the trust and focus on the present attitude, and try just to be very honest with that and keep it very, very simple. And then the rest shall be given me. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all else shall be added unto you. I like that. I'm ready for that. Go ahead, add the rest on. I give you my heart, God. Now you handle the rest. So we love you, and I'm so glad. I feel your heart and your prayers, and I feel we're so with each other. And also, I think I would just do what feels most inspiring for you. When Jesus first started taking me to the movie, he would not have taken me to this kind of movie. He took me to Walt Disney movies. He took me to Lion King and Pocahontas. The movie you were describing, a friend of mine, Netta Bowen, just wrote to me yesterday and said, oh, you got to see this movie, and here you are, a second one, recommending it to me. It's so heartwarming, David. You got to see it. Follow the breadcrumbs from the Holy Spirit. Follow your inspiration. This is not some kind of a journey where it's like when the dog poops on the soil, that you put the dog's nose in the poop. Jesus doesn't work that way. He's not trying to force us to wake up. He's not trying to push us to watch movies. if I always told people, if you're watching a movie and it's not bringing you joy, then it's okay. Get up, and you're not hurting anyone. You're just following your joy. Get up and dance. Get up and sing. Get up and paint. You have the spirit in you, and the spirit is very strong. And that's part of love and acceptance, is just allowing ourselves to let it express through. And if you could have seen my movie watching career over the years, you would see Jesus was so gentle with me. He gave me all the cartoons first, like I was a little boy. Here you go, little David. Come and watch the cartoons. He didn't have me watching movies like that. That came much later. I would have probably quit the journey if I saw a movie like that. I would have said, no, not my cup of tea. Sorry, this is not for me. But Jesus knows what's best, So I just say, I love you, and I love both of you, and give yourself total allowance and have some fun. Have some fun with all this stuff, and don't be hard on yourself for anything, because God knows your heart. He knows how devoted you really are to this healing. We love you. Beautiful. And we have Elle. Elle had a nice trip there to Camas for a while, and now are you back on the East Coast?
I am back on the East Coast, and I'm planning to come to Mexico, and that's what my sharing is about.
Okay.
And I've had my excuse me, I've had my hand up so long, and my heart is, I've been like, my ego is like, oh, stop, don't take your hand down, don't talk about this. But I had some darkness this morning, and then right away when I got on the Zoom this morning after, everything just fell away from that darkness. Everything just fell away, and the whole weekend has just been so inspiring and inspirational, and everybody who just shared right before I have, just everything they asked and said, and your responses have been so wonderful, whether it be the laughter, David, about your story, where the man who had criticized you sat right next to you. So I'm hoping to have a little laughter with this thing that I want to be transparent about. And I think I probably could have just stopped right after what David said about just telling the ego, no, just, you can't control me. I attempted to write my application to the mystery school about 2 weeks ago, and I got totally stumped by writing about what my purpose is to come to the mystery school. And my ego just had me take it on so seriously. And every word that I would write was like, I would write a sentence and then I would look back at it and say, oh, that doesn't sound good in an application. It's like somebody is out there judging my words in this application, and it's gone all over the place. It's gone to, why would they make me write an application to come to the mystery school? And so I thought to myself, or with some guidance by the not the ego, Holy Spirit, that I'll just wait. It's not like there's any hurry. I'll get some guidance and see what happens. And I always rush into things and feel like my ego often wants me to get something. Like there's something you got to get, and you want to get there before anybody else gets it and takes your place. So and then I really got to the awareness of, my place is there. And I just have to do, you were just saying, like the next best thing, just take the stepping stones. And what else can I say about this? Yeah, it's like I want somebody to come. If I go into a little bit about my background, like some people have been saying this morning of how they got where they are, there's a lot of unworthiness and lately a lot of guilt that's been coming up for me. And I think that when I go to make this attempt to come to the mystery school, this unworthiness has come up. And I'm glad that I'm being transparent about it. As I was sitting here doing this, I was like, well, this could even help somebody else who has to write an application to the mystery school. Yeah. all these things. But you talked to Sabine about just trust. And I mean, honestly, it's like, so what if I don't go to the mystery school? I have like incredibly great things happening as I study the course. And Camus was such an amazing thing for me. And then I come home to spend some time with my family and look at the roles that I've been playing and it's been incredible. Like, I've been living with my son and looking at fears. I mean, just incredible things have come up for me to explore why I am. It seemed like fear for a while, and then recently guilt. Like I need to be punished. We have mice in this apartment. And it just triggered me as I was watching last Saturday's movie when I looked over and saw a mouse in here. And the whole week I've been struggling with like illusionary pictures in my mind about what a small mouse could do to me. So I don't know what I'm asking for, but I'm very happy to just be transparent about this. My ego was saying, well, these are the wrong people to tell. These are the Living Miracles people are the people who will read the application. So you don't tell them. I could tell it with Marga's at Marga's expression session tomorrow. That would be safer. I have done it. And anyway.
You did it, no, you did it. That's so healing for all of us because every time we think of the word application, it's some application for a job, application for something. We have to say the right things and do the right things. Actually, I haven't read many applications recently, but years ago, sometimes people would just put like real simple one-line or one-word answers to all the questions. And like, I'm just winging it. They can do whatever they want to do. And then they'd have like an interview on the phone and they would laugh and laugh and laugh at people. You're in. They hardly did it. And, it's just a symbol. It's not like we're very formal. It's just that sometimes the things that are shared on applications are just things that we put to prayer. And then when people come, we take that into our prayers. It's like everything is for total communication. So as I was just saying in the previous ones I've talked to, relax, like with Nani and Dave, relax, have some fun doing that and enjoy. And if you enjoyed, and even the thought of maybe going, you would want to go in a very relaxed, happy way. That would be the way you would experience it. And then I'm here in the United States. I'm not too far from where you are. I'm in the Midwest, but Francis and I were talking the other night, and I thought, well, let's just see. Maybe Jesus is going to have some fun with me in the United States. I haven't been to the United States for, a couple of years. I could start doing movie retreats in the United States where people come and they're in a building with me and we just watch movies for 5 days. We just get the popcorn out. You can laugh, share all your questions. Like I'm talking about, live, not even digital, live in person, locked in the same house with David for 5 days in a bunch of movies. Let's have some fun. See, it's always what I say to Jesus, it's let's have some fun. Because Jesus always wants to bring us joy. And I thought, well, I'm here now and maybe. So Francis and I had a good talk. After this retreat, we might have some more talks and calls and everything, but it could be something like that. And I don't even think I would have you fill out an application for that. You could just get away with no application and just show up, and I'll give you a big hug at the door, and we'll get all ready, get our blankies ready to sit around and watch a movie together and see how fun that could be. Yeah, you can say one more thing, sure.
I am friends with Susan Jameson, and she would love that. And she could arrange that for you to be in the Northeast. She has venues and she talks about it all the time. We were just talking about it the other day. Could David come to the Northeast? So.
Yeah, when I traveled around the world, I was in 44 countries, and I would be sitting there in someone's living room talking to them, and they were like, I can't believe it. You're just all over the world and everything, and I can't believe that you're sitting on the couch talking to me now. And I would just smile and I would say, you have a very powerful mind. Because Jesus always wants to bring us joy, and we have no idea the form. So here you might have been fixated and all focused on say the right thing and the application and everything like this, and who knows what will be happening or how the Spirit will orchestrate it. You see, we always tend to think in such limited ways, like we're not worthy, and we kind of have little blinders on like horses wear, and we don't realize how vast it is. Like Jesus says in the Course, he said, it's not that you ask for too much, it's that you ask for far too little. Oh my God, my heart melts when I hear Jesus say that, because when I hear that, I said, okay, I'm going to ask for everything. And years ago, back in the 1990s, I had a girlfriend, and one time she started going to Unity churches, and the Unity Church was offering workshops and classes and seminars, and she thought, this one looks kind of interesting. It's a manifesting class, David. I'm going to go to Unity Church and I'm going to go to the manifesting class. I said, great, have some fun. So she went there, and they had a big circle, like about 25, 30, 35 people. And it was called the Miracle of Manifesting, and they would all go around, and each one would say what they wanted to manifest. So one person would say it, everyone would be very prayerful, what would you like to manifest? And then they would say, I want to manifest a car or a boyfriend or something, or $1 million, and they'd go, oh, yes, thank you, that's so beautiful. And now the next one, and then they would say what they want to manifest, a hamster or a kitty cat or something. Yes, we love you. Yes, we call on the mind of God to give you that kitty cat. And then they go, well, anyway, they came around to my girlfriend, actually my first Course in Miracles girlfriend back 1995. They came around to her and they said, okay, please share with us, what is it that we all can join together to manifest? And she said, everything. And they all went, anyway, Miss, you don't understand. This is a manifesting class, and you have to say something that you want to manifest and everything. So they all got quiet again, and they all got in prayer. They said, now please tell us what you want. Everything. That's all she could say. Every time they would go to her, she would scream everything. And really, that's what Jesus is saying. He said, it's not that you ask for too much, you ask for far too little. You are entitled to all of the joy and happiness and love of heaven. And that's why we're doing it on the vision. We're doing it for a vision for a new world. The reason we're calling on our prayer for vision is because we want everything. Not everything, like in form. I mean, I was in a house one time and I was meditating by myself, and I looked down and I saw a mouse one time. And when I looked down in the corner, the mouse looked at me. And it was this mouse. It didn't have the little ears that came back. It had the big ears, this cute little snout. And I was like, this is like Walt Disney talking. It's like, this is Mickey Mouse, with the cute big ears and everything. And I thought that was the most adorable thing I ever seen. And we both stared at each other and did a little meditation, because he was very calm and quiet. I see his little heart beating and his big ears. And so I think that was a symbol from the Holy Spirit to just pause, relax, be happy, be joyful, and watch Jesus run the show. He's going to show you a world and a joyful experience beyond anything you could have ever imagined. So thank you, Al.
Yeah, thank you. And I also just want to say that, truly, we don't know how worthy we are and how qualified we are to take on Jesus's curriculum. So I feel like, of course, when we hear the word application, the ego is like, if you say this, as if there is a standard. And I remember when many years ago, I was waiting for whether I could be considered as a title called Messenger of Peace. I was in Beijing, I was traveling with David, and David went back to the States and he was gonna call me. And then I was praying, doing my daily lesson. At the time, 154, I'm among the ministers of God. And then I was reading and he said, are you willing to receive God's words? And I thought, yeah. And then the next sentence, then you are appointed. You are a messenger of peace. And I'm like, oh, that's it? I was waiting for assessment as if there are external people assessing me, but Jesus was having a direct, you are appointed. Are you willing? Yes, I'm willing. Okay, done. So I just want to tell you, it's done. You're appointed. You're accepted.
And Jesus sent a mouse to make sure you remember.
Yeah.
A messenger, a little squeaky messenger.
Yeah.
Thank you, Al. Thank you. Thank you. And it looks like we've got Tabula Rasa Mystery School. There we are.
Jessica.
Yeah, okay. Hi.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi. Yeah, it's an exercise just sitting here and being in front of the camera and waiting. It is. So I'm appreciative of everybody sharing so far. And I just wanted to share about the movie yesterday. It was amazing. I had this feeling like I just wanted to sit, like I just needed to sit through the whole thing, and it was very intense. But somehow I was loving it, like just wanting that kind of intensity. And at the very, very end, I noticed the name of Jerry Damon Shaw is his full name. And Damon is my dad's name. And he's been dead about, seemingly about 18 years or 19 years. And I could just feel my whole heart just open with that. And like literally, it just felt like my heart was opening. And I could just feel Jesus swirling, deeply, like the universe was just, I don't know, opening in my heart. And then all this emotion came, and the feelings, and yeah, it just feels like a very deep healing with just facing these deeper fears or whatever it is. And then I also noticed particularly a lot of resistance to this retreat. And the night when Eric and Jason and Emily and Zach were there, I noticed all these like really vicious thoughts coming up, like just unkind thoughts and just this kind of things that just need to be forgiven, basically. And so it's just been this intense mystery. Well, the mystery is really too, but the retreats have just been so intense. And so the movie just felt very appropriate, and I'm just blown away, yeah, as you're saying, David, like how Jesus, you don't need to figure anything out, because Jesus is just, somehow he knows, like how could he know, that my dad's name is Damon, and then flash it on the screen like that. I'm feeling the emotions right now, but yeah, and it just it felt like it just blew my mind. Like everything was just washed away, like nothing mattered that seemed important. So yeah, and I feel really appreciative of what was shared, Jason and Eric sharing about competition thoughts, and Hugo was sharing some today. He said he's just done. He's done being in competition with Living Miracles or with the Mystery School. Like he's thinking he's somehow in competition with like it's me or them.
He's laying down the line to his wife. It's me or them.
So yeah, and then this morning too, I was having a lot of just memories of a 2-year time I spent in Camas, where a lot of anger and a lot of difficult things came up. I'm just facing those now, like all these beliefs, an unworthiness, and things that I guess I couldn't fully face then, but it's just here now. Yeah, just a huge amount of forgiveness is coming up. And yeah, just seeing that it's just Jesus really running the show, as you keep saying, and it's really not about any of these characters, and we can just trust that he knows the symbols that are going to break our hearts open and help us face this deeper, like these deeper fears and this self-hatred. Yeah, just feel a tangible gratitude now too, where I can say and really mean how grateful that I feel. And yeah, there was also some stuff about at the very end of the movie where he was talking about good people had sacrificed their lives in order to stop Arya. And that was a whole story with my dad and his dad being killed in World War II. And it was a big story growing up of how, he gave his life, and this deep belief and sacrifice that like good people have to die. That was unconscious to me, that how deeply I believe I must, I'm holding that in my unconscious. And just feel so grateful for the opportunity to face that.
that there's some kind of sacrifice still like involved in love, and just how deep that is. That idea that somebody needs to pay, or somebody has to pay a price, or, you know. So yeah, as I was sitting here, my stomach started like hurting, and I could feel. So I don't. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Jessica. It's like you really hung in there with knowing that there was healing, and you went through the whole intensity of it, and then it's almost like when you got to that Jerry Damon Shaw, it's like Jesus is winking at you, saying, "This one's for you, Jessica. I put this in here just for you to know how much I love you, to know how much I love Damon, to know how much I love your grandpa that died in the war. I was with all of them. I've been with you and with all of them every step of the way, cheering you on to wake up, cheering you on to see that there's no sacrifice, that you don't have to sacrifice something to know who you are, that you are who you are. You may not believe it, but you can open to it, and I'm there cheering you on. So it's quite emotional when we start to feel the presence of love that has been watching over us, watching out for us. And that's why I read that quote, what could you not accept if you but knew that every encounter, event, circumstance, situation was gently planned by one who knows you're good. That idea is in workbook lesson 135. That's the longest lesson in the book, but it's got so much in there. But it basically, he's just sending us a love letter, and he's sending us a bunch of love letters. He's got them all the way through the course about how much he loves us, about how everything that's happened there, like Sven was writing in saying, now I see after my revelatory experience that the whole thing was a setup for my good, a setup for the good of everyone, a setup for only love, where God is for you. God has never, ever, ever for 1 second been against you. That's the love Jesus keeps pouring on us and saying, God is for you. God is for you. God was for me. And he's like all happy now. He's like, yeah, definitely God is for all of us. Not as bodies, because God didn't create bodies, but as pure divine love, helping us to loosen our attachment and our investment in the bodies. Because all of our heartbreak comes from taking our mind and investing it and identifying with the body. And then also, Jesus always told me, because I was like Bhavna, I was like, okay, this is it. I really hunkered down here. This is the only purpose, self-realization, and you get it done, get her done. And of course, Baba did it with all the ayahuasca and everything. I was like meditating, praying, do this. I'm going to renounce this. I don't look at this. I'll never look at that again. And I'm never going to do that. I'm just going to sit here in this chair and, I was like going to be a mercenary for God. And Jesus is like, come on, relax. Just relax. I'm in charge here. I'm in charge of the show. You're going to have some fun. Why do you think that it's going to be so miserable waking up? You're going to have to face and look at some things, but I'll be there with you. And we're going to make it. It's assured. It's guaranteed. You can't miss. You can't mess it up. So have some fun. So relax a little bit. So actually, I think it was when I started showing movies that I started thinking, this is actually fun. I am actually going to have some fun. Jesus was not joking. I'm actually going to have some fun here. And then that's so poignant that you saw that Jerry Damon Shaw, because that was the one thing that came like a ray of light shining through, that was part of the forgiveness of Damien, forgiveness of your dad, forgiveness of the grandpa story, of those who died for you. You live now because they died. That doesn't sound very, very loving. I don't want any. I've heard people say when they say, I heard Jesus died for my sins, and I say, well, what do you think about that? And I said, he shouldn't have to do that. He shouldn't have to do that. And I said, well, I've got good news for you. It was a little skit. It was a skit to teach the great lesson that if you're the Christ, you can't die. In fact, the good news is you aren't even born in the world. And there goes reincarnation. There goes another one of my sacred beliefs, reincarnation. You know, Jesus is like, well, actually, before reincarnation was I am. Oh, okay. Tell me more about that one. That's deep. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for hanging in through all these years. You've been with us side by side, and you've done things you never thought you'd do, and then you never thought you'd marry Hugo. you took a look. You said, "What?" And Jesus is like, "Have some fun. Enjoy married life. Have some fun." You see, he's always cheering us on. So thank you, Jessica. We love you. Thank you, Damien.
Oh, wow.
Oh. Wow. Well, we made it through all the digital hands today.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, so much.
We love you. Thank you. Keep your heart eyes on. Hearts are flying, yes. The hearts are flying. Well, we love you, and we are so grateful that we can share all this together, because it is joyful, and it sometimes things have to move through, but that's just the way that it goes. You know, if Jesus tells us we have to move through the darkness to go to the light, then it's like, all right, then he knows what he's talking about. If he tells us to bring the darkness to the light and the darkness will disappear, he would know. He would know. He did it. He's done it. That's why he's the way shower. That's why we're following his course. That's why we're following his directions and instructions, because he showed us the way, the truth, and the life. And he even told us in the course that the course is just one form of the universal curriculum. So he's even saying there, if this works for you and this comes to you and it's given, then use what's available for you. But he says it's just one form of the universal curriculum, and there's many pathways to God, many, many, many pathways to God. And that tells us to be loving and tolerant and look for the good in everyone that we meet. There is no better or worse in terms of form. That's a trick. This is better, that's better. You know, he wants us to look with our vision, our inner vision, on everything and everyone, and that's totally inclusive. That includes everyone. So no one is left out of our spiritual vision. And that's what, in our hearts, we know that's true. We know that love is all inclusive. We know that there is no separating out or excluding in that. So thank you. We look forward to seeing you again. Roberto down there, sending hearts from Brazil. There's Al. Malfred, yay, Malfred. A lot of you, we've been at this for a long time. We've been really just giving our heart over to this and really just accepting all the grace. And no, Jason's got the Mickey Mouse ears. That's for you, Al. There's Jason showing up with his heart ears. The sunglasses, the beam, that's good. Keep the vision clear. Keep it clear. Okay, well, thank you so much. Until we meet again, happy joy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.